All right, let's call this meeting to order at 7:03 p.m. We're going to start with a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please join me in a moment of silent reflection. Thank you. Sunshine law notice. In accordance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act, public meetings may be held in person or by means of communication equipment to include streaming services and other online meeting platforms. This meeting is being held in person through the Zoom meeting platform being broadcast from Borough Hall, 748 River Road, Fairhaven, New Jersey. Public participation for this regular council meeting of July 22nd, 2024 is available by call-in phone number or through web conference Zoom. Members of the public will be on mute until it is time for questions or comments, which will be announced. At that time, the public has the opportunity to question or comment by phone or through Zoom by the raise hand button and will be called on at the appropriate time. Notice of this meeting was included in a schedule of meetings, which was adopted by resolution number 2024-13 and sent to the Asbury Park Press and the Two River Times on January 4th, 2024, posted on the borough website, the bulletin board in the municipal building, and has remained continuously posted as required under the statute. With adequate notice having been given, the borough clerk is directed to include this statement in the minutes of this meeting. Allison, may I please have a roll call?
Council members Paul. Here. Councilwoman Dean-Sline will joining us later. Councilwoman Hoey.
Here.
Councilwoman Koch.
Here.
Councilman LaBarbera.
Here.
Councilman Olson.
Here.
And we have Administrator York, Attorney Malma, Chief McGovern, and Engineer Virgilla is via Zoom.
And Nancy.
And Nancy.
Okay, a little bit of housekeeping real quick. Councilman LaBarbera has put some Dunkin' Donuts on the front table. So anyone that would like some Dunkin' Donuts, feel free to help yourself. We're going to start out with a presentation. Our wonderful garden club received a very amazing award. And I would like to do a proclamation in their honor. Is that the, wow, how like colorful are they dressed back there? I'll tell you what's
They're given flowers. That's like flowers.
If you wouldn't mind, why don't you come all join me up here? What?
Yeah.
Okay, this is a proclamation congratulating and recognizing the Garden Club of Fairhaven. It reads, whereas the Borough of Fairhaven would like to congratulate and recognize the Garden Club of Fairhaven, who received the Garden Club of the Year Silver Trophy from the Garden Club of New Jersey. And whereas the Fairhaven Garden Club has given countless volunteer hours to the Borough of Fairhaven and many organizations for many years. And whereas they have been involved with the American Littoral Society, Clean Ocean Action, Friends of Rutgers Gardens Foundation, Monmouth Conservation Foundation, Habitat for Humanity, and the New Jersey Audubon Society, to name a few. And whereas the Garden Club makes the borough wreaths every holiday season, they plant and maintain the Planters Memorial Park to complement the various seasons, as well as provide assistance in the Harding Bird Sanctuary, plant flowers at Bicentennial Hall, and provide floral arrangements for Meals on Wheels. And whereas they give out scholarships every year to a Rumson Fairhaven Regional High School student who will study horticulture, agriculture, or enroll in an environmental curriculum. And whereas for the past 10 years, members of the Garden Club of Fairhaven have driven through town, identifying front and side yard properties with gardens that contain colorful and attractive flowers for horticulture. And whereas a list is provided each year by the Garden Club advising of the properties that they would like the mayor and council to present with a random acts of beauty award and proclamation. I got that email today. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that I, Josh Halpern, the Borough Council of the Borough of Fairhaven, wish to congratulate, recognize, and thank the Garden Club of Fairhaven for time and talent in making Fairhaven a beautiful place to live, work, and play. Thank you.
I'm not in hurry.
I'd just like to say quickly, on behalf of the club, thank you. It's been our privilege and pleasure for almost 73 years to be a part of this staff, and we continue that position.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think here. I am. Oh, that's
Okay, moving along, first workshop session, SDL system, are you taking it?
Yeah,
Or-
I can provide the background.
Okay.
So 14 to 16 months ago, we embarked on a journey to evaluate a piece of software for the Borough of Fairhaven that could do a handful of critical items. Automate and optimize processes, digitize where appropriate, facilitate transparency with whoever may be submitting an application, no matter what kind it is. And really, those were the three. So with that, Betsy and I started looking at and working closely with the previous borough administrator, Betty Ann, Alice and Christie, a variety of different softwares. The first one was Civic Now, and the second one was SDL. An evaluation of both of them took place with the staff, and SDL was ultimately identified as the most appropriate for Fairhaven and for a handful of reasons. First being is that the construction office in Rumson already uses SDL. So all of the required data, block and lots, residents, et cetera, is already in the system. SDL comes with all what I would call white label processes, because it is a piece of software that is widely used in the municipal arena. There's a handful, actually more than that, there's quite a few white labeled processes: zoning permit, tree, fence, take your pick. There's a lot. SDL also helps support and automate fleet maintenance, vehicle maintenance, road maintenance, and it's all within the confines of the software that exists. The processes, because we want to go step by step, is that we want to look at would be fence, generator, tree, and the zoning permit application. So the technology is the easy part. That time and energy is spent on mapping out the current processes of what they currently are as of today, optimizing it, and then transforming it into the software itself. We had countless resident input over the last 18 months about frustrations with a variety of different processes and transparency and what have you. Entirely cloud-based solution. There's an app for it. And when we did the demo, if I submitted application X, I would receive notifications when it was received. I would receive notifications when it was reviewed. I would receive notifications when it's approved. I'd be able to have the transparency to see where it exists in the process from start to finish. And all of that is I'm gonna say templatizable. I'm not gonna say customizable because then they'll need, do I need somebody coding on the back end? It's literally plug and play. It's pick up these different components of a digital workflow, put them in the sequential order that we want, and roll with it.
But it's a template unique to Fairhaven.
Yes, 100%. All of them will be modified, is probably the
Right.
word, to what is best for Fairhaven. They give us a white label to start with, but we will ultimately make it our process, Fairhaven's process.
So do you mean white label, which term on that, but it's a template? Is
Yeah,
that what that means?
Exactly.
Can you spend 30 seconds on, if we, wanted to differentiate or, discern between a residential zoning permit application process and a commercial
Mhm.
zoning permit application?
All of that functionality exists. It comes down to what is the requirement. So if our requirement is, hey, we want to discern between residential and business, we want to discern whatever discernment we want to make,
Mhm.
we can build however many workflows that we want. Directly integrates with our website. Yeah, it all comes down to the requirement.
That's terrific.
Yeah. Already in the 2025 budgets, we're not seeking for funds out of this. This is part of the finance committee, one of the line items for tech. This was in there,
Yeah, it's already budgeted.
already budgeted for, because again, we've been 14, 16, 17 months, we've been working on it.
And just to take the question about differentiating one step further. Knowing that it will be a template but customizable
Mhm.
to Fairhaven, do you foresee, and I know you touched on this, bringing some stakeholders in to help identify what those efficiencies need to look like? Okay.
Yeah, I would say yes, right? And I would even go as far as like. In the private sector, right, we would do soft launches, right, as well. Like a soft launch is where, hey, we came up with process X, we have 5 residents who want to be part of the pilot to see how it is and how it works and work out some of the bugs.
That's good.
Exactly. So I would say that we would want to follow a lot of the best practices out there in this type of software-based kind of optimization process.
I know we have some partners in the business, I think you've been thinking about this for a number of years. So we'll be sure to tap that body of
I
experience.
do have a workflow
I'll
already
bet
for
you
a certain zoning permit application. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. So that's it, Mayor. If everybody's on board, there's a resolution on tonight to award it. Borough Administrator York is in touch with the SDL rep, and we can move things forward.
Great, thank you. Okay, next up, proposed McCarter Pond Committee. Following up on the discussion from the last meeting, we said, give us a little time. We're planning on coming back to you at the following meeting. We've had a few discussions. The way that I see this, I'm looking for, feedback as well, if people would agree with this setup. Is a subcommittee focused specifically on McCarter Pond, made up of obviously members of the Environmental Commission, potentially outside of that, if we need additional expertise that we feel is relevant to the situation. And they would be reporting back into the Environmental Commission. That would be reporting obviously back with a recommendation to the governing body. The reason for the subcommittee, from my stance, is I do think the pond is in a negative situation right now. It looks as bad as I can remember. We had a meeting very close to the last council meeting right before it, where we got some feedback. Brian may be able to speak to that as well, that the one side of the pond had started transitioning, which meant that we could not have the volunteer day that we were looking to have. And we can do some work on the sides of the pond, I believe, but we can't get into the south side to get in there and pull all the vegetation out like we thought we were going to be able to do. The benefits of the subcommittee is, unlike the Environmental Commission that's really only meeting once every month, is the subcommittee can meet as much as possible. We feel time is of the essence as far as intervention on the pond. We want to get as many options available to us as possible. And you know, I'm looking to turn this around as quickly as the governing body you know, gives me an affirmative, and move this thing along so that we can start addressing this historical jewel that we have in town.
Are you
So,
suggesting that the subcommittee would make recommendations? Because I mean, I would look to our professionals for direct guidance on intervention, which would come to this body. I think we can.
so I'm recommending that the subcommittee, who could even ask us for access to professionals, make recommendations and advise into the environmental commission, who makes the recommendation to the governing body.
Yeah, the professionals are already engaged, so Chris, Nick and Rich and I have been sending around emails. I have a good summary of what I think we need to do, at least from the initial conversations. I'm happy to share that if people want the detail, or I can give it to the environmental commission. It seems like there's three primary things that will keep a pond clear. It's hydro raking, aerators, and then chemical treatment. And then there's a couple of secondary things related to shoreline management and filters and catch basins. I think I have the status of all 5 of those elements. I'm happy to go over them if we want the detail.
I mean, I think that's fabulous. It should come here so we can take action. I don't have any problem with, I mean, we talked about during the liaison transition, having neighbors adjacent to ponds, natural areas, reports, sort of field reports to the EC. I don't know if that got lost in translation, but that could be the same idea.
Yeah, so the
But
85% of the shoreline is privately owned, 50% is borough owned, and the borough owned portion is mowed by DPW and not fertilized.
mm,
And so an obvious win would be to reduce fertilization on the private land, but that's private land, so it needs to be, I think, done through education, is my sense, or recommendations.
communication,
Yeah,
just
communication.
generally, yeah.
Will the subcommittee be open to anybody in town that wants to like take an active role?
I would say that it's not an open-ended committee. I think, you know, in my world, perfect committee is 7 to 9 people, not too many cooks in the kitchen, but enough that you have a breadth of experience and expertise to make a positive impact. I would like to fill it mainly with members that have that environmental expertise. But for instance, I think I made a recommendation. There's one gentleman on the environmental commission that's also on the finance committee, that I think he would be a relevant person to put on there, just because, you know, we also have to be reasonable with, you know, the expense side of things and what it costs to do things. You know, I would probably lean on the environmental commission a little bit to ask them who wanted to participate. That's where I'd start.
Okay.
And then after that, if we didn't get, 79 hands put up from the environmental commission, at that point, I would probably fill outside of there looking for some relevant experience, potentially some neighborhood representation, whatever it might be.
Well, it sounds like you'd still need to be able to be in discussion with, like, the Friends of McCarter Pond, because they're the people that live immediately adjacent to the pond. So they're the ones who are gonna need to know things
All
like,
right, Tracy, what did you say, Friends of McCarter Pond? I wasn't aware of that.
well, that's, I think why this is coming up, because there's a.
You think why
Well,
is
Friends of
coming up?
McCarter Pond is just like a neighborhood group that wants to be able to partner with government and support.
But why are you saying you think that's why this is coming up?
Oh, maybe it's not, I don't know.
For
But-
10 years, this body has talked about McCarter Pond. And this body last year, after 10 years, was, took our first stab at hydro raking it. We actively have said that we're looking to hydro rake a second time. We've been planning a volunteer day. At the last meeting, we said that we had just had a meeting with our consulting engineer. give us another meeting to discuss it. Why are you saying that that's why this is coming up?
Again, I could be wrong, but what I'm pointing out is the value of both, because it sounds like you want to form a group for specialized focus, but still be able to be in contact with the neighbors in the immediate area,
Well-
whether it's for information about use of
I think,
fertilizers or.
yeah, I mean, I think that would be one component of it, but McCarter Pond is used by everybody in town, right? So I think like it's gonna be open for all comments and questions and feedback, right? So, I mean, I'm ultimately gonna defer. But, you know, it's used for the fishing derby, right? There's
Ice skating, yeah.
ice skating,
Yeah.
right? There's more than just use beyond the 85% of privately owned homes, don't get me wrong, I think it's important to educate and talk to them, right? But McCarter Pond is that entity in town that's used and available to everybody, right? So we need to create a collective process to take that all to account. And when I look at this committee, right, I think this committee should be focused on getting it to a state of maintainability. Right, there's gonna be a tremendous amount of work, I'm curious on the wetlands, right, or, you know, and what comes out of that, and, you know, what that looks like, so.
I think the big missing piece, so we're doing various amounts of all of 4 of the 5. It's the chemical treatment that was put on hold related to hydro raking. And that's the missing piece. It hasn't been done since August of 19. And I know not everyone agrees on whether we should chemically treat. There's different types of chemical treatments. Some are more expensive than others. Feel free to chime in.
Yeah, we had met with the consultant from CME, it was Councilman Lavera and Nick from DPW. One of the things they talked about was an alternative to the chemical treatments. And one of those alternatives was a chemical called Green Clean, which is another alternative that we could use as opposed to the chemical we were using. It is 4 times the cost of what it would be for the regular chemicals. That's one option that we could explore too. Additionally, we're also, since the last council meeting, I've been in contact with Director Arnaud from Monmouth County, as well as John Tavia from the DPW and Engineering in County. And we have an exploratory meeting this Wednesday out in Freehold to discuss, you know, the possibility of a shared services agreement. Director Arnaud had purchased a aquatic weed harvester for hydro raking, and the county's looking to get into hydro raking services. So we are in the process of discussing what that might possibly look like as a shared service agreement to see if county would be interested in hydro raking our ponds here in town. So we have a lot of stuff that we're working on, you know, to combat this issue.
More along like the committee, right? I think that's why the committee makes sense. There's so much data, right? And just to digest it, filter through it and make sense of it and then bring it back. I love it. I'm in support of this.
How will we hear from the committee or the environmental commission? Will we get reports from the environmental?
Yeah, so it would go, my idea in my head is that the committee gets to work and makes recommendations to the environmental commission, which can, you know, maybe put the finishing touches on it, if you will, and then come to us with a recommendation. You know, we've studied the pros and cons of the more expensive chemical, and we like that or don't like that versus regular chemical, or maybe no chemicals, but then we have to have pond scum, there's trade-offs, right? And so to educate us on all the options and what they recommend, and then put that forward. And I would imagine they would work closely with Nick and Rich and so on.
Correct, yes.
Councilwoman Maselli has been attending via Zoom. She's on her way here. She has her hand up as well.
Hi, guys. I'll be there shortly, but I just had a question also about, wasn't there some talk about like the aerator, and we're not using that right now because of the hydro raking is on pause? And do we have a fountain at all, or is that a piece of this to keep the water moving? Have we considered anything like that? That's my question.
We have 6 aerators. One is broken because of the hydro raking, but the other 5 are in operation. They're along the center line, north-south. And the one is broken out. Other plans to replace that, you know, or we're waiting for the hydro raking.
Waiting on hydro raking.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay, and are they, I mean, they're working the way they're supposed to?
As far as I know.
Yeah,
Okay.
as far as I know, when the consultant came out, we met, they are working with the exception of the one that's broken. And obviously, one of the things too, I mean, you know, even in the preliminary talks, you know, prior to meeting with county, they were pretty clear, you know, in order to make it successful, you have to have a 3-pronged approach, which is hydro raking, aerating, and also having some type of chemicals in there. They said, even if you take one of those prongs out, you're still gonna run into issues like the algae, what we're dealing with right now. They say the only way you're gonna successfully treat it is if you approach it with three-pronged approach, like
Yeah.
I had described earlier.
My brain goes right to the pivot point, which is the chemicals, right? So we've taken out 250 tons of material hydro raking, another phase is coming. 5 of the 6 aerators are working, but the chemicals haven't been put in since August of 19. So it seems like that's the missing link, or the thing that's changed is my sense.
And chemicals, I just wanna like, well, chemicals doesn't translate to pouring poison into the pond, right? Like,
No,
you know, the whole point of using the word chemicals, just so nobody misconstrues, right? Is to say, hey, we're gonna use something, don't know what it is yet, to treat the algae,
where
correct?
we used, MD tablets, I think they're called.
Correct, yes.
And they changed the oxygen levels.
Okay. I just wanna qualify and clarify that, right? Like, it's not we're gonna put like shock in there like a
No.
pool, right? And like, you know, yeah.
No, I mean, it's, I assume that it's all approved by the NJD.
Correct, yes.
Okay, chemicals, yeah.
But I would just add one final thought, you know, we do have a lot of committees. This government has formed a lot of committees. We have 8 standing committees. And we have another 12 committees on top of that. And, you know, each of us is on a lot of these committees, so. This sounds like a potentially a model for how that can be replicated. Say, for example, for Schwenkers, or for the Third Street Trail, or for, these should be slightly different, but in need of some sort of special information, perhaps handed off to somebody else, but if this works, it could be replicated for other areas. My only, it has to be said, it is said in government, you want to look like you're doing something, and I'm not suggesting that's what anybody here is doing, form a committee. The magic in what has been discussed here, to my mind, is that we're willing to provide professional resources, access to professional resources, because any guidance this body gets, whether it's from a committee or a commission or a board, it has to be rooted in professional guidance, which clearly we just got here already. So I think we've made leaps and bounds, but we've got a lot of committees. Just want to make sure that it's something that's honestly going to be workable and actually help us conquer something. I don't want to waste anybody's time. I don't think anybody up here does either.
So Mayor, the EC chair is in the back. I don't know. Sean, do you want to say anything or do you have any, I don't want to put you on the spot. If you don't, we can.
Too late.
Well,
Pattern, Sean.
the beginning, so I'm only coming in like halfway. So Sean Bailey.
Just come up to the center, just so they can hear you on the owl, really putting you on the spot there, Sean.
Everyone that's spoken so far takes a donut after they're done.
Correct, thank you, that's the rule, you come up to speak, you take a munchkin.
Did you hear the beginning part about we'd have a subcommittee that would have people from the EC involved and maybe some others and then report up through the EC?
Okay.
The EC would make a recommendation to us. That's.
Yeah, and and thank you for including us in the conversations. It's a good dialogue. I think it's obvious that it's a concern that affects a lot of us. And as it's been said, it's not just the neighbors. Obviously, they abut to the pond and that's an impactful area, but yes, we all are interested in the pond's health. I would just say, you know, we have a body, we have the Environmental Council whose responsibility is looking at environmental topics. And so I would like, you know, to be mindful of creating more and more and more when we actually have a body that's responsible for that specific topic. And I know I'm new to the chairmanship and you know, working with the members this weekend, you know, there is definitely some common ground, some galvanization around revisiting, as Chris, I thought you summarized it really well.
Thank you.
You know, 3 things that have been done. You know, it's like when you maintain your lawn and you don't maintain your lawn for 2 years, like your lawn doesn't look good, or you don't maintain your garden, it grows weeds, right? Like this is just something that needs to be maintained and for different reasons, that schedule hasn't been followed. You know, whereas a committee has been really good, brush and leaf as an example, getting a lot of people to come together, talk about how it affects their part of the neighborhood or where they live is great. I feel like this is like a different type of in the life cycle, it's in a different spot, right? We all agree, we're all stacking hands. There's like one thing we can all agree on is we don't want it to go, we want to fix it. Having a lot of people share how much they love it is great, but I think we really need to be more focused and get a group together of experts that can say, if we follow this treatment plan, we will get back on track. Or we've so far swayed off of that treatment track, we actually have to go look at like options B, C, D, whatever. I'm not an expert. I don't pretend to be a pond expert. I've never dug a pond. I've never managed a pond. So I'm not saying I am, but I am saying that I thought our group of volunteers in the environmental commission are very well prepared to manage that process if we need to.
And I'll say what I said again. I'll get with you offline, obviously, the next few days. Get with the commission, whoever wants to serve on this subcommittee, let me know, and we'll move that process forward. Because I do want everyone involved. I just don't want those monthly meetings to stop that process. This is obviously a very important topic right now. It's timely, and you know, we need positive intervention as soon as possible.
And to your point about moving with speed, I think it was a topic at our last EC meeting. And since then, it's been, I would say daily, multiple times a day correspondence between us, between Brian, between others. There is no idea that we have to wait until our next meeting in order to like take action or reconvene. It's to me, it's an urgent matter. So if it's an urgent matter, it's kind of less, oh, can we all get together and meet on a weekly basis? No, it's like, I need to send out an email, I need to get Chris involved, I need to get the administration involved, because they're the ones that have been responsible and the most in the know as far as what's been going on. We can certainly be that help as far as extra arms and legs to then look at, all right, well, let's bring in other ideas, let's start to galvanize, what are some of those other options that should be explored.
Good deal. Thank you. Thank you.
Kristen wanted to speak, Councilwoman Howard.
Just very quickly, it just sounds like there's a lot of, can you hear me?
Yes.
You know, there's a lot of great ideas here, and it's certainly a sense of urgency. I completely agree, you know, with Drew that we should involve the residents, but to me, this sounds like a very basic SWOT analysis, right? Like strengths, opportunities, weaknesses, you know, threats, and we start to prioritize those and what we need to deal with first, you know, and obviously, and one opportunity that's glaringly obvious is how we treat the chemical situation, but to me, that's kind of where you start and then prioritize, you know, from there, obviously working in conjunction or working with the EC, but just wanted to mention that because there's a lot of great ideas here, but we need to figure out how to centralize them all and then prioritize.
Good. Pivoting to the discussion of too many committees, interesting you said that. The bird sanctuary committee was next. I'll just talk to that a little bit. Garden Club does, you know, a great job with everything they do. What I do notice though is like, you know, Carolyn, let me give you a plug here. The Natural Area Committee seems to have, you know, a plan and a process and organize volunteer days and really a direction when it comes to the natural area as a whole. And I could be wrong. I don't get the sense that we have that in the Harding Bird Sanctuary. You know, I think it would be nice to do that. I guess in my plan, we would add a committee that would kind of take charge of that. It could be filled up with very similar members to the Natural Area Committee. I would actually only put the committee together for 18 months to 2 years. And then in my perfect world, I don't know if we could do this, I would actually roll the 3rd Street Trail and the Harding Bird Sanctuary into the Natural Area Committee, into one giant committee that handles all 3 tracks. I think they're very similar in nature. Be wrong again, without the expertise. But I think that group does such a great job that if they were overseeing all 3, I think we'd see a collective benefit to the borough. So That's what I was thinking. I didn't want to obviously dump per se, the bird sanctuary on you until there was a plan and maybe it was a little bit further along. Because I think you have a lot in the natural area as it is. Recently, we had a resident that had a nice idea for the bird sanctuary to engage. I would see in the future something like that being brought to the bird committee. And then eventually 2 years from now, being brought to the larger natural areas committee. So that was my thinking there. I'm looking for feedback from the council on that idea.
Well, this is really great having sort of a structural conversation, mechanics of government, how to make it work better, and I appreciate you putting it on the agenda for us to talk about it. I kind of see systemically within our committee structure, we, unlike the commission that has a secretary, a liaison, you're tied in directly with government and access to professionals now, which is a huge thing, because the environmental commission has been missing sort of a technical resource, meaning somebody with knowledge, like you're talking about, that on the ground knowledge of whether we're dealing with invasives or water quality issues. But if we're going to provide those professional supports to the environmental commission, they can start to actually tackle something. The natural area committee does not have any of that infrastructure. They have some funding through the appeal. In fact, that particular group, I think, enjoys the highest rate of contribution from Fairhaven, almost the highest rate. So if we want to provide similar supports and expand the portfolio of responsibilities, that'd be a conversation worth having. I think just consolidating it and then not providing the technical resources and professional guidance or the sort of administrative infrastructure that's so key to the functioning of any kind of group is a difficult thing to consider.
So natural area does have a DPW representative that comes, and we did get them budget funding, 7,000, 8,000, something along those lines.
No.
Does Dave Carl come to your meetings? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, Dave Borough.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes he's not.
Maybe that could be more regular.
I don't know about the $7,000 or $8,000.
The money for invasives.
Oh, that way.
Yeah. So we did send some
Yeah,
resources.
budgeted.
Yeah, that was in the budget.
I do remember this came up before from Carolyn, and I know there were some concerns, and I think one of them maybe was how you guys are structured or how it was formed. There might be some limitations on what you can, is that true? It has to do with the actual natural area? Is that okay? Because I know that.
Yeah, I mean, we certainly would be open to an idea like this. There would be details to work out, and there might be people that were not in favor of it for one reason or another. And we do have a funding source that's kind of tied to the current mission that we would need to manage. Like I said, I think there'd be some people in favor of it, some with some concerns. I have one question, which this might be a total rumor, but I thought at one point I heard that the Harding Bird Sanctuary had something unique in its deed that kind of dictated.
That's where I think
I couldn't answer it. It's something we'd probably have to get back to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that.
I-
Meaning it's restrictive as far as,
Like what can be done with it?
Actually, I'm just taking a note.
Yeah, I'll follow up on that with Andrew.
I'll just give an example, like, I know the Red Bank Library, right, it's on the river, every now and then people say, why don't we sell it, put the library in the middle of town? But the people that donated it said that if that ever gets sold, the money goes to Princeton University. So there's like things in the deed that cause you to have to
sure.
manage it a certain way, so I'm not saying there's anything like that, but I heard there was something in the deed.
That's
and I would
good,
just
that's
wanna
good,
know.
good feedback. We'll find out about it. And I want to clarify that part of the conversation, the consolidation, I see later on. Yeah, I said 18 to 24 months. I think the idea is right now, and I think possibly also we gotta find out, like Carolyn just said, before we form this potential subcommittee. The idea is right now, do we want some additional focus in that area?
So you know about the garden club role? Okay, just, yeah.
So I'm aware of the garden club's role. I actually, most of them, I think, left. I would like to know more about what is done in there by the garden club. Because it might be a different approach than the natural area takes in their area.
So I'm not answering your question because I think you're right. It would be good to know.
I'm not looking to replace what the garden club does. I'm looking to build on top of it.
So, I would like to say the Harding Bird Sanctuary, we should know what the deed restrictions are, if there are any. Obviously, maybe it has to be a bird sanctuary. Obviously, right now it's birdless, and there are reasons for that. Some of us understand a little bit about it, but no matter what structure or what entity, we kind of need a professional plan. Right now, the natural area took it upon themselves to engage the county park services. It just really leveraged every potential relationship they could to get guidance in the natural area, which is part of why they are so successful. And the bird sanctuary is different from the natural area and would obviously, if it had to become a bird sanctuary again, the roadmap for getting there would look different than what the park system's guidance is for the natural area, which is a different kind of wooded open space. So again, just going back to that, we would need the professional guidance so that we had a plan, no matter what layers of support and focus we want to put on it. I would just go back to, we would need to adopt a plan that would be implemented over time.
Chris, for this committee and even the committee before, right, if there's a professional service needed, right, that committee would reach out, they would get the professional services in order to answer whatever question may be at hand.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
The committee would reach out to us,
What's the
to
process?
the professional.
Well, they
Well,
would,
they don't have access to that.
Well, not to the borough
To the
administrator.
borough
right,
administrator.
right, 'cause we have to, obviously, we would have to coordinate professionals that could be in contact with them.
But how does that, I mean, in terms of budget, how does that?
Well, that's
play
a
out?
lot of it. would be outside.
And what I would say is if there's cost associated, just like we have in every other situation, they would have to come to the council to get approval for that.
Well, I guess, so knowing that, because you ask if we're down for additional focus in the area, absolutely. But I would like to know like what steps we're taking before the 18 to 24 months that we're gonna consolidate the thing. So if we know that ultimately that is a plan, we know there's gonna be money that's associated with that, like
Yeah.
that we need to have funding for that. So those are the kind of things like we need to talk about now, because it's gonna come, we know that's where it's gonna end up. So knowing that, how do we plan for that now? And all those topics, like the bird sanctuary, the pond, the shrinkers, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that's more the conversation that probably needs to be happening a little bit more now.
That's the answer, Parsley Fellows. She can answer right here.
Okay, what, I guess,
I
don't know.
So, if we're talking about additional funding for committees or subcommittees or such as that, that would have to be a moving forward
Yeah.
conversation,
Mhm.
which would become part of the budget conversation that would start, late August, early fall.
Yep.
For 2025, so not to make any mistake, there really is no funding for this year. But I think that timing works, because if you get the committee together, get the idea, start getting ideas, then we can start seeing, okay, this is the kind of funding we need. Whereas if we wait and the committee's not formed until November, December, you're behind the 8 ball and you're getting money into the
It
budget.
could be the same conversation next year. We don't have money in the budget, and then it's kicked to the following.
But
So the conversation to have now is get the committee together,
Mhm.
get them to say what they would like, and then the council can decide, okay. We like, they come up with 3 ideas, we like idea 1, it's gonna cost approximately X amount of dollars.
Mhm.
We either add it into the budget or we don't.
Yeah.
Well, so we want it, so I'm seeing a lot of this as like improvement. I imagine the recommendations would be sort of restoration and more capital intensive. And it would be, I envision it as a capital situation, not an operating budget. The improvements, not the support, but if they say we need to take down 600 trees or plant 600 trees or, whatever.
So that's something we would need to look into to see whether it actually fits into a capital expense.
Yes.
I'm just gonna throw a
But
thought out
that is,
there,
that is a potential avenue of.
just while we're on this, because an alternate route, right, we have called 100+ acres of natural resources. Water bodies, rivers, wooded areas, different types. They all need a type of stewardship, maintenance and attention. And a lot of the grant committee review work has led us to identify sources of funding that certainly require a match, so it doesn't mean we don't pay anything. But if we have a conservation or stewardship management plan, we have the basis for which we can submit an application for a grant. Without the plan, you know, you could create a committee that can't, and they don't have a funding request because they don't have anything to even create an estimate. But if we have the plan, we can both create estimates and generate, you know, costs that we might have to come up with, whether it's operating budget or bonds, but also apply for grants.
So just wanna chime in, right? I feel like everything I'm hearing personally, and I want to discern a couple different things, right? There's a discernment between work to get these to a state of maintainability, right? From, you know, the type of use we want at these, so that's something we need to keep in mind. And I don't think there's any reason why we can't do both in parallel, right? To do that type of planning will take time. But these need help now, right? And getting the committees together and figuring out what that looks like and having conversations. And I would say even setting the expectation of communication at the GB level with what we expect communication to be and then funnel up and how often and how frequently is only going to position us to be that better prepared for 2025, because we're going to start putting the budget together in 3 months,
Yeah.
4 months.
Maybe.
Less than.
Less than, oh, it's July already. Yes, okay, 2 months.
September.
So where it
So-
takes me back to is that, then let's not wait 18 to 24 months.
Mhm.
Like that seems,
But we're not waiting 18
Yeah,
months.
that's what about, no.
I'm just talking about consolidating. I
I
didn't want, I don't wanna give,
I thought you were like,
I don't
oh.
wanna give Carolyn and the group a project. I wanna give them something that's further along and it's just at that point, maybe management moving forward. Rather than give them a new project where they have to start from scratch on everything. And I would imagine that members from the Natural Area Committee will wanna volunteer for the new Harding Bird Sanctuary Committee as well.
Yeah.
If they wanna volunteer, that's great, but I also don't wanna make it, you know, here's some additional homework for you.
So this, I go back to what Sean and Brian were saying. One, the word consolidation I kind of like, because again, we're fairly splintered. We do have a lot of committees. It'd be nice to function in a, at least for the governing bodies. It could be great if these things were all kind of together. We do have an environmental commission. It does have some authority. It's formed by ordinance. It has all the proper linkages to keep it connected with the government. And I'm wondering if that isn't appropriate, rather than, you know, consolidating everything under a committee, thinking about how that committee can be in connection with the environmental commission. It is all under the similar purview, rather than thinking of the environmental commission scope excluding natural area, Third Street Trail and Harding. Those are the three entities that I heard you talk about. They're really part of the environmental commission's purpose, not as though that would already come up anyway as a normal course of business. And it would provide some of the linkages, the critical linkages that they've been asking for.
You know what, I may be wrong, but I think where you're going with this, Mayor, is that the environmental commission meets once a week. You envision this, I mean, once a month, you envision this committee as meeting more often. And perhaps the environmental commission as an entity is not prepared to meet more than once a month. So if you create a smaller group of environmental commission members and other professionals, you might be able to meet on a much more frequent basis.
Oh, I was just.
So that, on Carter Pond, that's exactly what I was thinking. On Harding Bird Sanctuary, my thought is the environmental commission, supervises environmental impactful, categories all over the borough, right? They have our rivers, they have our, you know, our woodsy areas, our natural areas, They have our stormwater management, anything that the environmental commission has underneath their purview. But it's hard to say, hey, environmental commission, we need you to be the stewards of the Harding Bird Sanctuary moving forward. That's a lot. It's a lot for a body to just do that. So if we can have a very specific subset of people where that is their only focus, I think that's to the benefit of the sanctuary.
Well, the other
And not to the detriment of anything else. If we dump the sanctuary on the environmental commission and say you have to take care of this and you have to discuss this, that could be to the detriment of other things that are under their purview.
And Mayor,
It's a time and resources.
I'll just add to that, right, because if when I think of Third Street Trail, natural area, a lot of these different, they all started as kind of grassroots movements, right? And they blossomed into what they are today. I think this is a similar idea with the bird sanctuary, right? To initiate a grassroots, right, specifically focused on this area. But what I'm hearing is at the same time, we have to talk about, what that consolidation looks like. And if that's on an 18 to 2 year timeline, great, start from there and work backwards and figure out what that looks like. But I love the idea, just to bring back to this, I love the idea of having a grassroots movement, people specifically focused on the bird sanctuary. It's in a state of disrepair, right? Action needs to happen now. And if we have a small group that can provide that recommendations of what to do and start now, then maybe in 2025 for the budget that's starting in 2 months, we can put stuff and start chopping away.
It's the proper order.
Well, you're gonna get a bunch of volunteers together who are not gonna have any access to technical resources. And so,
That's not true.
so this subcommittee is gonna be able to,
We just said, they're gonna get together, and if they wanna meet with a professional, they're gonna reach out to Chris, and then if there's a cost associated with that, it'll come back to the governing body. It's the same thing we do with brush and leaf. Right, we needed professional help on
We
brush and
do,
leaf,
yeah.
right? So we went and we worked with the BA then got the professional resources to bring in, make sure that there was a budget. So that lever, right, will exist and does exist.
Yeah, it does, I just echo what Nancy said too. Yeah, better to do it sooner than later, because then we can forecast the needs of what that subcommittee might need, when we're doing our budgeting process.
Yeah, and one other thing I would like to point out, is if there's a quote that's needed or they need additional information, many entities, many vendors, businesses will give you those quotes and that information at no cost.
yes, I'm aware of that.
It's not always necessary that we have to pay a professional to get that information. And that's the sort of thing that we can determine what we need and then, but.
The Weeds report is an example of what Nancy is talking about. It provides excellent guidance and it's a good starting place. Why don't we just come back to this knowing that we may have come up with a way to provide the focus, attention and resources minus the budget until we get into it.
Can somebody send a deed out? Chris?
So what do you mean come back to this? Are we ready?
Meaning if you want to do it, it sounds like everybody's in agreement, but like, let's not lose track. Let's come check in 6 months or. Because we don't really hear from our committees, boards and commissions right now on an ongoing basis.
Well, I guess I'm confused about what the next step is though. Like we're saying, let's come back to it, but what happens in the middle?
So next step for me would be to set up the subcommittee. That's the next step, is to identify it, potentially they choose a chair. And we usually have an initial onboarding meeting. Our administrator would be there. I would assume that head of our DPW would be there. And but our liaison from council would be there. And then obviously the members that have been set on the subcommittee would be there, and I think we'd have an initial discussion and sort of set the parameters and the mission, and from that point, it's hard to say what step 2 would be, but I think that's what that initial meeting kind of says.
Will there be a resolution on the agenda that'll set forth the purpose of the committee, right?
Yeah, so we would set up a committee through resolution, correct, on both of these.
At the next meeting.
At the next meeting, if we're ready with the names, which I hope we are.
We do have more time between now and the next meeting, right? Because we only have one meeting in August. Makes sense.
And just to answer Andrew's question before, I'll work with Allison and Andrew, our borough attorney, and get a copy of, the deed and send it out to
I have it.
everybody.
I'll
You have it,
send
so-
it. I will
so-
send it to me, thanks.
Chris and I spent some time talking about the complete list of committees that exist as we know it and, trying to get on the same page and make sure you have that too.
Yes.
And.
Yep.
I don't know, Mayor, how you wanna, I just wanna make sure we don't lose track of a subcommittee and a committee. Just, I don't wanna see you get suffocated and lost and would disappear, you know, these are important topics, which is why I know you're putting it on the agenda. I don't know what the reporting is gonna look like, but maybe we can talk about that separately.
Yeah, I think
Not
maybe
develop.
that's something that would be discussed with the committee liaison as well, and I'm sure it would be a discussion at that first meeting.
Who's the
know.
committee liaison?
Harding is Betsy, correct? Betsy Patch. Borough Council President.
And then for Carter Pond will be Brian because of the environmental commission?
Actually, what we discussed was Councilman Hoey, but leaving a second spot open for Brian.
I would love to be considered, just the whole environmentalist thing. I would love to be part of this, and being that I don't have any actual committees or like under my belt would be great. I mean, I have committees, but nothing that like actually reports back or.
Let's talk offline about that. There might be some quorum issues there, but we can have that discussion. Okay?
I would be a quorum if it was Brian and me.
Well, it's Kristen, we were saving the spot for Brian.
Yeah.
The mayor's on
Well, I'm
every.
just, okay, yeah,
So the fourth makes a quorum issue.
I get it, but like, okay.
Happy to.
All right. Next up, we have a workshop session, stormwater management ordinance, land use.
Yeah, so last year, we did some work. And identified in the stormwater management ordinance. Specific to stormwater runoff from an addition. There was a little bit of a loophole. So the way the ordinance reads as of today, any new build. The square footage, and don't quote me on the technical language, but the square footage of the stormwater runoff on the roof can't be discharged into the street. But for an addition, it can. And so last year, governing body, multiple boards were engaged to include environmental. It was like November 17th, I can't remember the exact date, to look to close that loophole. So that additions, if you added additional roof, that stormwater had to be discharged to the same standard as if it was a new build, i.e. not into the street. So the ordinance language was brought up, coordinated, and ultimately was tabled. And given that we're now coming into the second part of this year, wanted to resurrect it again, send it out to everybody. It's a paragraph. Legal last year looked at it, so we'll have to go through a legal review again. I'm sure we'll have to go to environmental again, we'll have to go to land use board again. But it is a loophole. And given how stormwater has been a priority, this is another one of those levers that we want to make sure it didn't get lost.
Are you suggesting for SDL? Want to get it all done before we incorporate it into?
Yeah, fair.
Yes,
Yeah, good point.
Are we gonna do that? Oh, no, okay, so this is, you're saying in anticipation of our next wave of amendments. This is something we wanna start to look at now.
No, separate from that. So originally it was supposed to be part of the First Amendment and somehow it got dropped. So this is only one paragraph changing 6 words.
Oh,
So instead of waiting on the state guidance to come in and adopting it to whatever the state says and then
mhm.
refining a little bit further, right? Because the last ordinance was getting it completely in line. This takes it that one step extra further and breaks out a very small chunk of it so that we close the loophole and we can take another action towards stormwater.
So that will be circulated next week?
Defer to you.
Because I did look up the ordinance that prohibits piping your storm water into the street. It's very specific. There is a little loophole though.
Yeah.
To your point.
Yeah, so you should have the language that the lawyers chopped off on last year.
Yep.
We'll have to circle back with environmental, there's a land use angle here. And then obviously it's land use loss, I think that's the whole 60-day and, right?
Yeah, it's
It's
gonna take a while.
It's gonna take a while, but wanna resurrect it. Awesome,
Okay.
all right.
Okay,
Just sorry, clarify, is it going to the whole?
It should go to the whole government.
Council, yeah,
Yes.
okay, next up, public comment on agenda items only. Please state your name and address for the record. Please observe a 3-minute time limit. Thank you.
Hello. Mike Mizuka, 14 Dogwood Lane.
Hi, Elise Casey, 263 Ferry Road. We have created a little advocate group called Friends of McCarter Pond recently.
We all, live adjacent to the pond.
A few of us are here.
And we really appreciate you guys taking the time, to set up the council, and, again, we love the thought of what you guys are gonna do. We just wanted to voice a couple of concerns as you're putting the council together and things for you guys to consider. One of the ones, the first thing is hydro rating. I know we've done it twice in the past. Two different, the one, right? But we only count one.
I can't comment more than that, one time.
But it does seem after the first time that it got worse. Kind of seemed like it pushed, it kind of spread everything around.
Move the spaghetti around the
Yeah,
bowl.
right. And so now we kind of have a path from our house over to the other side, which is nice, but okay. Right, the other part we were thinking about in terms of the bulkheads, there seems to be kind of from where we live all the way across, there's a deterioration of the bulkheads, and I didn't know whose responsibility that is. Right, are we allowed to repair those? Is it the towns? On my side survey, it basically goes to my fence line, but not to the bulkhead, so I don't know if I'm allowed to fix it or those kind of things.
Great question.
I think those are questions we need to get answers for you. I
Yes.
do think that in the past, I've seen residents doing their own bulkheads.
Yep.
I'll also say that one of the issues, I'm assuming that eventually this conversation will move towards, should we dredge the pond?
Mhm.
One of the conversations that I had is that was a concern because certain bulkheads that residents put in are to a certain depth. And then you're dredging much further down than that, is the bulkhead then gonna collapse, is gonna cause an issue based on that, so.
Yeah.
We gotta get an answer for you on that, but.
Exactly, and I think that's why we want to come up and just kind of throw that out there,
Yep.
that, well, if we're not included on the committee, how do we kind of get back and forth? So we understand what's going on and we can kind of release our, about certain things and just provide feedback.
And that might be one of the beauties of a subcommittee is maybe, there's representation on that subcommittee from someone that's reporting back into your, Friends of McCarter Pond.
That'd be great.
And if you reach out to me, your email address, I'll get that answer with bulkhead.
Okay.
Just give me your property address and everything.
But this is, we had our first meeting last night, which is a wonderful get there with just neighbors that surround the pond, and we are here to help you guys and work together. There's a big education piece to it where we could be doing better as far as what we're using for fertilizer and
Yeah.
pesticides and educating just the surrounding properties. So we're here to help.
Yeah, and I think,
Work with you guys.
I think you can have to compile that information as well in terms of doing a survey for everybody, and, what we used to do on our lawns, how do we treat them, all those different kind of things to help expedite this whole process.
I just want to also make clear, I know we keep talking about surrounding properties. I'm pretty sure some of those stormwater drains on adjacent streets also flow into the pond.
They did.
So it's more than just the homes that are running the property where the pesticides are having the effect. So the education program needs to be further out than just.
Of course, yeah.
I told it's 45 acres of drainage area.
Yeah.
That drains into the pond.
45.
45 acres.
Yeah, the main two drains are by our house, but between 14 and forget, then across the pond, two big pipes. Right, and then on either end. So again, whatever information, whatever help that we can provide, we'd love to do that. We would want to be involved in any way we can.
And we would love someone from the group to be considered for the committee.
Yeah, well, possible, yes.
Let's have that conversation.
Okay, great.
All right?
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, Jennifer Halbrook, 55 Fairview Road. I want to thank you all for your service and your countless hours that I know you put in to keep all these projects coming along and keeping the town running as well as we do. And thank you, Councilman Cole and Mayor Halpern for responding recently to me on an inquiry about the Fairhaven Road project, the phase 2 of the project, which is the sidewalk that will go from McCarter Pond all the way to the end, to Buttonwood. We're all for bike safety. I work closely with the schools, school safety and bike safety. I think the town's done an excellent job and what a track record. But we feel our area of Fairhaven Road, is so quiet. I think we've had one trick or treater in 3 years. It's a very quiet, we're sad about that. But there really is no, I mean, I don't know if studies have been done of pedestrians and bikers, but we don't have, we're the end of the road and we don't really have anyone down there. So for those 15 residents that are gonna, give property and have maintenance of sidewalks, they would love to do it if it was necessary, and they feel that it's not necessary. I've spoken with, almost all of them over the weekend, and they just feel that the, 2 bike lanes that are proposed, a sidewalk and the dirt path, it seems excessive, to get to the other sidewalk or get up to school. And we know that we like to keep the kids safe and that they're usually being funneled down to that crossing guard. So hard to get crossing guards for other, pedestrian crossways, that they like to meet their friends and they like to go down Buttonwood, and in the end, they're really not on Fairhaven Road. I had twin boys, my daughter had a double stroller. I never had a hardship getting just across to the dirt path, which is under the plants and cherry trees. We think that's the safest way to go. And again, we did speak with, over 10 residents that don't want the sidewalks. They did sign a petition I wanted to submit to you of their concerns. And there were concerns that they felt that they wanted just a little bit more input, and could someone meet with them? They know it's on for approval tonight to be awarded, but is that still gonna be discussed of any additional input for those residents?
Input as far as the specific design?
Why there is a sidewalk built in.
Well, can it
It
be-
may not be needed, and the majority of the residents do not want it.
Right, so, just to shed a little bit of light on the sidewalk, so. I'm gonna first talk our master plan, which really gives us a guide towards how to manage the borough of Fairhaven. So it reads, the safety of pedestrians and those on bicycles was in the public consciousness in the 2005 master plan reexamination report. This is 2016 master plan. The integration of safe routes between neighborhoods, recreation areas, and the business district was identified as a priority. These issues remain valid. Respondents typically travel to local destinations by car, overwhelmingly so at nearly 90%. However, of those respondents with children in the local school district, over 50% stated their children get to school via bicycle. The remaining were roughly split between walking and being dropped off. Nearly 2/3 also stated they would walk or bike to local destinations more often if pedestrian and bicycle facilities were improved for safety and convenience. Then additionally, in the Fairhaven Active Transportation Plan, which is from 2017, the sidewalk network, the streets included in this targeted inventory provide longer continuous corridors across the borough, create an interconnected network, and/or provide direct access to major destinations. These conditions can discourage walking, contribute to unsafe crossing conditions, reduce driver awareness, an expectation of pedestrian activity, and/or create impediments to mobility for some residents. Major roadways in Fairhaven that lack sidewalks include portions of 3rd Street, portions of Fairhaven Road, and then it continues to list a few other roads as well. In addition to that, at the last council meeting, maybe it was 2 council meetings ago, not that that's what drove this entire project, but we heard from residents, there's been 2 or 3 accidents on Fairhaven Road in the last month and a half. One gentleman almost lost his life. The residents in general, the feedback that I've gotten, I think I don't speak for everyone, but I think most of the representatives up here is that the borough as a whole is looking for more walkability and safer routes to school for their children. So when we look at like your part of the street, we are also taking into consideration, obviously, the bottom of Buttonwood as well as Beechwood and the young children that might be there, and them having safer access to school. And I just, it's anecdotal because it's just me. I do run on that street. I can give you an example that there's one car always parked, always on Fairhaven Road. And when I'm running, since there's no sidewalk there, I have to run around it into the street, which sometimes I stop and I take a look. I guess my concern is the child doing the same thing to actively stop, take a look what's coming. And I totally appreciate the passion of the neighborhood. I guess where I end up being on this, and the reason why I would probably support it, which I think I've told you, is God forbid something ever happens to a kid. I'm the one that ultimately answers to it. So if I can make that road as safe as possible for pedestrians and cyclists, that's really the only reason why I would support it, but I think it's a pretty good reason.
I mean, I appreciate the point, because I think the one topic that is 100%, two topics that's, everyone agrees 100% safety and the bike safety for kids. We all agree on, but I would think you would need to look at it individually and the necessity of it. One point is, you guys are making the dirt trail behind the cherry trees. So for any walker, on Fairhaven Road or Buttonwood, you could cross the street and walk behind the cherry trees and then connect up with the sidewalk on that side of the street. So you have full access to get to town from that area. And additionally, if you, like what we always did, going back toward Buttonwood is the safest way to walk in that direction. So I mean, and then you installing a bike lane and a shoulder, which we don't have. When it comes to the safety of walkers, if you have an alternate side of the street, you have access down Buttonwood, and you have the shoulder that's gonna be installed, or the bike lane, which I think will take care of that. And when you consider the few numbers of walkers, it just seems extremely unnecessary and especially wasteful, and when none of the majority of the residents there do not want it.
So we did discuss the crossing of the road. The issue is, in order to get to Sickle School for a young child, now they're crossing the main road twice. And we don't have any plans right now for a crossing guard in that spot. Obviously, that's another expense. They have to cross for the
Kids went down Buttonwood to go to Sickles. I mean, that's a safe, if I lived anywhere in the area, I would not really want my child walking or biking on Fairhaven Road as their main travel point. I mean, traveling down Buttonwood in the back roads is 100 times safer than going down Fairhaven Road. So I would think the children should be discouraged from using that as a route, which is probably why not many people walk that way. Like without kids, they just walk down Buttonwood to Sickles.
Yeah.
I just can't see any scenario where a child would walk into Sickles from where we are located at.
I know we're talking about, I know we had 3 minutes, we have to hurry up. But the bike lanes, we actually had an accident up further up where, I don't want any names, but a person pulled out of their driveway and struck a child who broke their leg. And that's these people, these 15 people are saying, oh my goodness, now you're putting a bike lane up against my exit, my egress. You're encouraging more drivers, you're encouraging more bikers, and that scares them. So
Also, we create another problem, like, we try to solve one problem, we can create another one, because, and the same with our daughter once biking, that was her. I mean, she almost got hit from the car backing out of the driveway, so that creates other dangers. If you try to promote children to go down a sidewalk that has a lot of driveway traffic, you have another scenario that could cause issues.
So we like the bike lanes like on Ridge or on River, or I think the bikers that do a straightaway, or they're exercising, or the cyclists or the cycling people that go fast. But we don't really see it there that it's gonna be useful, and that's all we wanted to add.
So that road is a major connector between 2 county roads, right, River.
Like one of
and
the
Ridge.
hands, right, hands as well.
And we know we have bike paths, county mapped bike trails on both of those county roads. Fairhaven Road is a primary connector for that, but big picture, if we zoom out, and I don't know exactly where your house is, but big picture, the intention of everything from the ATP, is informed by the master plan, as our mayor said, is intended to calm traffic on Fairhaven Road. And that's done by narrowing the cart width, it's achieved with the shallows and the bike lanes and the shoulders and the sidewalks and street trees, and all of these things collectively help to calm traffic. It exactly to address the concerns. Now, I understand what you're saying about
Sidewalks?
sidewalks help achieve that. The curb, the sidewalk, definitely, this is known. I'm not making this up. This is guidance, it's science, traffic standards and so on. All of those things help collectively, especially when we start to see the regular rhythm of pedestrian crosswalks, vertical running across as you're driving. Right now, you kind of have an open straightaway. But when all of these new improvements go in, it's going to overall improve and calm traffic and make the roadway feel safer. It's going to alert drivers to the presence or potential presence of pedestrian bicycle, whether they're even there or not. Are you between Hillcrest and Buttonwood?
I am across from the Quantum Cherry Trees, like
So-
two doors up from Buttonwood.
Right. So the idea of the crosswalk and sidewalk network is to complete it so that the trail in the ones on Cherry Trees is actually part of the sidewalk and pedestrian network. But if we can't get sidewalk to curb to pedestrian crosswalk to that trail, guess what? We don't have a complete sidewalk now.
Sure,
So
sure.
it's all part of a whole.
I
Even
think
though I
Also,
totally
street,
appreciate what you
people
said.
using it seems so unnecessary, and crossing the street is not an issue. I mean, any people in our area, I mean, you can cross the street to go to the trail behind the cherry trees. I mean, the traffic is not that unique.
We've had a lot of, actually, I don't know about everybody else, but I had a lot of people ask about crosswalks to get to the natural.
Okay, I agree, yeah, it's just on the sidewalks, so, I mean, sidewalks itself just seem completely unnecessary and.
Well, we can't introduce a crosswalk without a sidewalk.
Why can't you do a crosswalk? I mean, it's the crosswalk, I believe it goes to Buttonwood. It's not, I don't know where the sidewalk
On
is.
the button, right, but Fairhaven is a primary connector, whereas Button Road is more of a tertiary, it's a lower level street with lower traffic volumes and so
But
on.
we also feel that it's also very residential, where we
It
look
is.
at like camps, and we have a 4th through 8th grade where everyone's riding their bike. And we have a church, which is a big parish, and there's no bike lane, no bikes. I look at Craven Road to the river where everyone's going to fish and crab. No bike lane, just seems a lot for a street that is very quiet. Most people turn off before they get into the Hillcrest. So we don't feel that, that's why I think some of the residents wanted a little bit more input, because they didn't feel it really is that busy. And we want everyone to be safe, of course. But we didn't think that the 15 homes with sidewalks had that great of an impact, but I do see the big picture.
We never found out.
Let me throw in there too, outside of the safety, just, I don't know if this helps. But this is from AARP. Interest in sidewalks is so keen that they've become a factor in home prices. For example, in the scenario where 2 houses are nearly identical, the one with a 5-foot wide sidewalk and 2 street trees not only sells for $4,000 to $34,000 more, but it also sells in less time. I'm just pointing out that, sidewalks aren't a detriment as far as the value of your home. They actually enhance the value of your home. I don't know if that is coming into any concerns from any of the residents.
A little bit,
But
because we were talking about the natural area and the bird sanctuary. This seems juxtaposed, that type of overdevelopment, that look. Well, aesthetics is my last thing when I worry about safety, but that really isn't the look of Fairhaven Road with the pond, with the natural area. It's quite the opposite. To us, it looks a little bit like urban coastal, like Seabright, like I'm going to Tom, he's like, I'm just saying I don't think it does actually help. I think it makes it look like a busier street in some people's minds. So I don't know if I would agree with that. Some people do like the sidewalks. Again, we think it just looks busier.
About the engineered edges, whether it's curbs and sidewalks and street signs and speed limit signs, it makes it more suburban and less rural.
Right, exactly. And I know that when this in 2016, you mentioned when it was put up for a vote, that if I remember correctly, it was split, that it was not really a consensus. Am I accurate on that? That it was a split vote, that there were people that voted no, and that the ex-mayor was a tiebreaker on this plan, if I'm correct?
Are we talking about the active transportation plan or the?
Yeah, I believe the plan you were referring to.
So I thought there might still be some.
I couldn't answer to vote on that.
But it, I mean, it just seems that, I mean, I know you guys are acting off that plan from 6, 7 years ago, and you're trying to do the best of the residents, but I think there needs some, logical intervention at times to balance that plan with, it's really necessary, needed, of what the money that the residents want. And I don't think that's true for.
Sure, well, when it comes to balancing the money, it's part of. If I'm wrong, I don't know if Rich is here to correct me, maybe Nancy can, it's part of phase 2 of a grant award that we got. So there's no cost to the borough ferry.
All right, I mean, it still seems wasteful to do a project that no one's, they want.
So I respectfully, I hear you that you don't want it, I hear that there's other residents that don't want it. But I would also guess that if I asked the other, 6,000 residents in Fairhaven, whether they could get a sidewalk there at no cost and make use of it, and certain children would have a safer access to schools, they would probably be there. And that's how we tend to make the decisions that we do up here, is this decision for the best of the entire town?
It's not for the 15 that are getting the sign.
We don't really make a decision based on 15, we make the best decision for the entire borough, and I think I said this to you online, so I'll say it to everyone, like, would I want a sidewalk in front of my house? I'll be honest, I probably wouldn't. I probably wouldn't, but I also would say I would love a curb in front of my house, and I can't have one. So there's give and take to different areas of town, based on circumstance. We got a lot of this, I wasn't here, but I remember from following along, the other side of Fairhaven Road got a lot of the same feedback, closer to McCarter Park, when they put the sidewalk in on that side. It was unnecessary, no one really uses it anyway, why are we doing it? And all the feedback that I've gotten, from the community is that was a home run. So, you guys have been, I'll be honest, I get a lot of resident interaction. And the Halpros have been as first class as I can possibly even describe, and that's why it's even hard to be up here and have a different position than you, so.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah.
thank you very much. So that's pretty much a done deal, or is there gonna be?
Well, no, it's everyone's, it's up to each individual member, vote. If anyone else wants to reply in any way, you're welcome to.
Would you just clarify the benefit, so you're saying like you wanna walk, walking from Buttonwood to cross the street to go to beyond cherry trees to connect to the sidewalk. How is that any, what is wrong with that compared to having the sidewalk? Like, how is that the
So
sidewalk?
my concern is a 5-year-old that lives on Beechwood that wants to go to Sickles in the morning. And now they have to cross to the other side of Fairhaven Road, go all the way down to cross back.
We know that parents.
Or go down, but,
Or their other option is to go up Buttonwood,
yeah.
right, to go up Buttonwood.
Right, yeah.
I think that's why residents want to talk a little bit, because we know that a 5-year-old wouldn't go on a company.
Sure.
But the parents are crossing, that the parents are crossing 5-year-old, but, I hope you'll consider it, I hope you'll think
You're
about
about
it.
to ask, I know the feedback.
What I would say is, it sounds like there's more residents that want to discuss, I'm assuming, this issue. So why don't we allow them to discuss, and if, Brian, if you want to circle back after they're done,
Hi, thank you for listening.
I'm sorry, what was your name, sir?
I'm sorry, my name is Mitch Cox, I live at 365 Fairhaven Road. This is my wife, Sarah Wallach. We actually emailed you over the weekend. So we are not as prepared as the Halpros, because we kind of were apprised of this a couple of days ago. We didn't realize, we had heard that this was in the rumblings, but we didn't know that it was actually imminent, which it appears to be. So, we just like to give you the benefits, such as it is, of our experience living at this address. I think we mentioned in the email, we have, raised 2 daughters from infancy. We had, used to, move them to the town center and the dock at the end of Fairhaven Road, when they were in strollers before schools. They went, of course, to Sickles and Millwood, and, it was never an issue. I believe when they went to, Sickles, they, did what Mr. Halpern just mentioned, and they went by way of, Putnam and sort of went out, when they were old enough for I-5. So I guess we're just kind of,
We're perplexed because we weren't notified of this. Now we have to respond to this within a few days, and there's a consent agenda at the end of this meeting. I can't understand why this wasn't made known to people that it affects the most. The other thing is, I'm concerned about the vegetation that are along the road. There are several trees. Our property does not have trees. We lost them during standing. But there are other people who have vegetation, trees, even a statue along there, and they'll have to pull all those down. And I really am not in favor of pulling any vegetation down. Lastly, for context, we lived here for 30 years and we're well aware of the traffic on Fairhaven Road, Sands Road, River Road, practically any road in Fairhaven.
yeah, one point I would like to make is that, I understand the argument, is that the mere presence of the sidewalks and crosswalk will tend to, I think the argument will tend to decrease the traffic on Fairhaven Road, isn't that?
Slow, calm.
No. Okay, except the problem with that is it doesn't seem to be borne out by the other streets in Fairhaven. I mean, Hants Road generally is considered to be busier than Fairhaven Road, and it has sidewalks and has had sidewalks. And certainly River Road is the busiest of all, and it has sidewalks of the whole length. So, if anything, I would think that the kind of, countrified aspect of Fairhaven Road has actually cut down on the traffic. So that particular argument, I mean, I listened to all the arguments, and some of them were reasonable, but that particular argument, I really don't think, at least in the context of Fairhaven, the town of Fairhaven, I don't think it's,
It doesn't change the volume, to your point. It doesn't change the volume of the traffic, the number of cars, that it has been shown to calm, meaning a slow vehicles.
Can the vehicles slow down?
It's slower
The
than,
25 miles per hour doesn't work.
well, it should, that's the idea.
25 miles per hour on that road.
That's right, it has to be.
Okay, I
I
know.
think the other thing that's not being taken into account also is that, Fairhaven Road, especially the southern section of it, before it hits River Road, is actually wider, it kind of widens up. And I think more than anything, yeah, and I think more than anything, that would be a factor. Yeah, I mean, I don't think the cars drive faster on Fairhaven. Well, they lowered, it certainly wasn't the case that they're faster on Fairhaven than they were on River Road, but then they lowered the speed limit on River Road. But I think the widening of the road is probably the factor that more than anything has the calming or the opposite of calming.
Right.
And if I could add one thing, we walk to the dock very frequently. I walk on the left-hand side of the sidewalks, past all the, I guess it's the older part of Fairhaven. The sidewalks are in terrible condition. I nearly fall on them and have to walk into the streets. If we're so concerned about safety, why aren't we having to fix those sidewalks?
Where are we talking about?
Can you describe where it is? On Fairhaven Road, past River Road.
When was the last time you did that?
Probably over the summer, or last spring.
The bricks, they were already fixed.
The brick
They were
sidewalks,
short, they were
It is
short.
hard here.
Yeah, so we fixed all those as
Well-
part of our micro projects.
Well,
Those are already done.
Okay, are
We'll
you,
go walk up there. We'll
I
find out.
walk, I take almost daily walks to the dock there. And the ones on as I'm going towards the dock, the one on the left side of the road, I mean, it's hard to believe that sidewalk has been repaired. That isn't pretty.
Been
You
repaired.
really
The only-
you have to look down for about a stretch of about 100 yards to get a trip.
The only part I believe that hasn't been prepared on that side of River Road is the very end on the right side in front of the property we just acquired, because we're unsure yet of exactly what we're doing with the property. So it didn't make sense to spend money to fix that, not knowing where we're
We'll
going.
be easy. We'll go walk it and we'll take pictures if we find that it's not.
Absolutely. If you want a walking partner, let me know. I'll join you.
And I guess the other thing I would say is that I don't entirely, the argument I guess was made by Brian Halper. There already is a pathway on the Fairhaven Field side of the road, you know, the upper part of Fairhaven Road. And that is going to be developed into a walkway to a, like, what you can put down stone, I guess, to make that more of a, you know, more accessible. Well, I guess it doesn't get rained out and muddy. So that will be a 4-season walkway along that. I don't understand why both sides of the road need to be populated with sidewalks. If you have, you know, that path along the Fairhaven Field side of the road, and if there's a concern that it's not going to be a, you know, it's not going to be a smooth pavement, or it's not the kind of thing that somebody can ride a bike on, then it seems to me that, you know, that's easily solved, just pave it.
Yeah, well, we can't pave the other side because it's part of the natural area. But I hear your concern. I mean, I don't really have anything else to add to what I responded to Brian on. But we appreciate your time and passion. Yep.
Hi, how are you?
Well,
Jeremy Hurricane, 297 Fairhaven Road.
Adolfo Alcala, 301 Fairhaven Road. I live right on Hillside and Fairhaven Road, and I have 2 kids, right? Every time I have to get out to go on the bike ride with them, I have to either cross the street, which people don't go 25 miles. You know, or I have to make a left and ride the bicycle with his kids, you know, on the road to go to what Buttonwood and all that stuff. I find it extremely dangerous not having sight.
You on Hillcrest?
I'm on Hillcrest and Fairhaven,
Mhm.
and I'm actually really pleased and really grateful that you guys are, that we're gonna pave the road. But I think it's necessary to have sidewalks, especially for safety. It's,
And I'm the neighbor right next door to him, and I have 1 young child, we have 2 dogs, we take weekly walks. And same idea, we have to cross the street, and you know, this town prides itself on its walkability, its bikeability. And this is the one stretch of the town where I feel like we are disconnected from all of that. Mayor, you probably don't remember, but when you were making your effort to knock on as many doors as possible, and you knocked on our door, you had a brief conversation, you asked what's the one thing you'd like to see this town, you know, do. We said, we'd love a sidewalk right here. So we were thrilled to hear about this, you know, especially during the summer, there are kids, teenagers walking across the lawn at night, that's fine. The issue is there should be a sidewalk if they're walking. It is dangerous, and, you know, one thing I'll agree with, the first people that spoke, yeah, we also had one trick or treater, and we think it's because we're disconnected from it. And we would like many more, and I think this only fosters that kind of community.
thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Sidewalk doesn't guarantee you trick or treaters, because I live on River Road and for some reason my block, it's no trick or treater.
Well,
I know, I'm coming to trick or treat this year.
Please.
you are at candy bars, we don't get many, so.
That's because everything's.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah, it's true. I see them.
Yep.
I'm your in this, okay.
Roger, Trevor.
I live on the corner of Buttonwood and Fairhaven Road, the 2 streets that we mentioned. My concern really is.
Your mic's on?
I'm
Do I
sorry.
have that right or no? You Mizuka?
Mrs.
Yes. Yes, I remember meeting you, yes.
It's the safety of everything. Not so much the sidewalks, it was the way.
Hang on 1 second, guys, I just can't hear her. If everybody could just be quiet in public, please. Yeah, ma'am.
No, my concern is the safety, you know, Fairhaven Road, being on that corner, you know, we're very aware of it. And one of the concerns was the thing that was talked about was a possible bike lane. And I think that would be very dangerous. You know, right now as a homeowner, getting out of my driveway, you know, we've got to look for traffic and to worry about possibly hitting a child. I wouldn't want to have that stress. Also, I've lived in Fairhaven in that house for over 35 years. And Fairhaven Road has changed. The speed limit is 25, and the average speed that's maintained is like 40 to 50 miles an hour. Now, my feeling is some of the money could be better used, trying to either enforce the speed limit with speed bumps or something to deter speeders. And, you know, the corner of Fairhaven Road
And Ridge Road is also very dangerous. If we could have a traffic light there, I think our money would be very well spent doing that.
So-
Doing the bike lane. And my only concern with the planning, our property has already been encroached upon by the town twice. And we put a garden where a tree had been, because we wanted to make lemonade out of lemons. And we're afraid that the sidewalks are gonna encroach again. Those are our main concerns.
Thank you for your time. Let's go ahead. Sorry.
I just wanted to comment on the fact that we're not opposed to anything that will increase safety for our community in any way. But as was mentioned, the roads who have the bike lanes, bikers aren't always friendly. And have the sidewalks are the busier streets. And unless something's done about the contractors at 8 o'clock in the morning doing 45 miles an hour down Fairhaven Road, it doesn't matter. If you have sidewalks, don't have sidewalks, it doesn't matter. And frankly, I'm out there, I'm watering the garden. And at that hour, they're not paying attention. And if they had to stop, I nearly saw a truck take out a bus. The bus was legally stopped to pick up children, lights flashing, he wasn't paying attention. He stopped about that far from the bus. You know, that's not an isolated event. We have to do something about the traffic rather than increase it. We have to somehow control it as part of the program. We were not aware of the program. We chastised the council a little bit because a lot of work went into it. I realize that. But there's residents that it affects. We should have been informed. We should have had a little input. It would have helped you, not created the evening that we're at. So, we're here to help. And we're here to work together.
We've lived in town a long time, and we want to maintain the beauty of it. So thank you for your time.
Just one note on, what you mentioned. I believe that we've asked the county to take a look at that intersection. Ridge. So I don't have any answers for you yet, but, obviously that's a county road, Ridge Road. So, they're supposed to report back and hopefully there's a,
Takes a
positive.
while, but it needs to start.
How to identify the safety concern, brought to your attention.
And Latimore.
Well, we have to get the other work done first, so we don't do that.
Thank you. Well,
I don't, not one person has taken a donut, so I had to ask a question. So, Ray Guido, 256 Fairhaven Road. I just wanted to reinforce a couple quick things about the McCarter Pond Subcommittee. Just want to really thank Elise and Michael who, worked with a bunch of passionate residents who are living nearby, who just wanted to get involved. So it's just really great getting us all organized. Just want to say, in your consideration for those committees, for that one, for the bird sanctuary, I think Councilman Drew, you had mentioned the word grassroots. You're not going to find, a less passionate group of people who are going to try to do the work that needs to get done than the people who have already been raising their hands. So I just ask, please, really consider the residents who have been really trying to make a difference, and people can learn, the skills that they need to make the appropriate recommendations to the EC and other committees. So I would just ask for that open consideration. The other, I just had two logistical questions as follow-ups as well. Would be great if we could get maybe a follow-up after the council meeting today about how people could apply to those subcommittees in town, no matter where they live. So I think that'll be informative for everybody. And then after they're formed, for those residents who are not on the committees, how they can still get in touch with the subcommittees and still be involved. Because that passion's not gonna go, right? So, and obviously the closer you live to any of those things, you're gonna care a little bit. So just a couple of asks.
I was laughing at your donut joke, so I missed your name.
Oh, what's that? Oh, Ray Guido.
Ray Guido.
GUID.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mary.
You just take all of them.
Just pass it around.
It's like Costanza taking the peanuts. It was Kramer.
Bill Heller, River Road. Once upon a time, there was the dual, recycling. And there was like paper and bottles and things like that. And I bought another can, so I wouldn't have to do the swap out. I only put one can out on the street. But I have two cans. Are you gonna charge me $400?
You already own it, right?
Wait, you have a can that's not like the normal blue recycling can that everyone else is,
Two cans. One I put cardboard,
right?
other paper, newspaper, I actually read the newspaper. And the other one is just bottles and cans.
But why are you separating them now?
Because once upon a time, we had a dual system where you could only put out.
No, I understand that, but once upon a time, I shouldn't make jokes like that. I was gonna say I took someone to the prom, but I don't take her to the
The
prom.
dinosaurs walk the earth, you could only put out
Right,
one at a time. So instead of like putting it in ordinary can and then swapping it out, I bought another blue can.
right.
Okay, now.
And it's the same as our cans.
Yes,
Right.
I have two blue cans.
But he only.
So he's wondering if he only uses.
But I
You'll have to pay
one
the
can
tipping fee.
Because he owns it.
every week.
But he didn't get the can from, did he get the can from Ferry?
Yes.
Oh, he did get the
I
can.
paid for it. They delivered it. I went over to the DPW
Right, okay, I got you.
and they were having.
So if you return the can to us, you wouldn't get charged the $400. Is that your question?
No, the question is, what should I do?
Your blue can.
Just use one can.
Everything goes in one.
So
You don't need this, you don't need to separate.
I know, but for me, it's better that I put all the cardboard in one and then put the bottles in the other, and then when I have enough cardboard and stuff, I put it out.
There'll be a $400 fee.
So that's a decision for you to make, but yes, you would be charged $400 for a second can.
Okay, then how do I get my money back?
Your money back for what?
I bought that can.
I'm not sure you would get your money back.
Why not? I bought it.
At the time.
How many years ago did you buy the can?
When they had the dual.
And do you know how much you spent on the can? I don't know. Why don't we have, Chris, why don't we take a look into this and we'll get back to you.
But you
Alright.
can
Yeah.
return the can.
You can definitely return the can and not be charged the $400. As far as getting the $55 back, we're gonna have to look into what the agreement was when you purchased it. We'll
Yeah,
come.
send me, if you don't want to get my money back, I have a reciprocal saw. So I can solve that problem too. So.
No, don't destroy it.
Okay,
I have,
Because it's my can. I paid for it.
right.
just a point of clarification. They'll only pick up our cans, correct?
Yes.
Well, it's the claw, it's the, so like if someone, it's one arm banded, so
Yeah.
if someone just had a regular can out there, they
How
wouldn't
many
be able to.
cans they can get that could be picked up, and are we charging them just for?
They can only pick up Borough Fairhaven cans.
Right, okay, fair.
And just to double click, right, so everybody knows why, right? Can you just provide the feedback as to why that tipping fee is now there and the contract and whatnot, just so
Yeah, so-
everybody has the information?
So, well, as we discussed at a previous meeting, the issue that we may be having is that if we are not successful in getting an exemption on our waste services,
I understand that.
the council may have to make the decision to go to bi-weekly recycling. And our concern is that potentially some residents that may not need a second recycling can will just ask to have one because it's a convenience. And if we have too many residents with double cans, we could potentially be outside of our contract that we were quoted on, which could have a detrimental financial impact on the borough. So to get ahead of that, we're putting a fee on the second can so that only the residents that absolutely have to have a second can make that request. This is not a means for us to drive revenue or anything like that. It's a means for us to adhere to the contract.
But you also have an enforcement problem, because cans are usually picked up early in the morning. And the guy who's picking them up is not gonna know whose can is what. What you really need to do is get a little decal, stick it on there, so that it will say Fairhaven 224 or something, garbage, and the other one, recyclable. So 2 decals, basically, if that's the case. And that would solve your problem. Because if the property changes owner, then you have to go get the other can, because maybe the new owner doesn't want to pay $400. And then you have an administration problem and cost involved.
Yeah, we do have a process for getting the cans back. I mean, we have been doing that. We sent out on the garbage cans, we sent out like 2 months ago, letters to all the residents, letting them know what the charge was, and if they want to return the can.
Mayor, may I say something? I kind of agree with you because you have 2 cans, but you're only putting 1 out at a time.
Correct.
So what difference does it make if he has 2 or 3 or however many cans? We're only being charged for that 1 can that he puts out when it's being picked up.
But he doesn't, but you don't put them both out at the same time.
No, he only puts out 1 at a time.
The problem is regulation of it, right? So the only way we
Till
can
Christmas.
know.
And everyone doing that puts out 2 cans.
But no, you can't put out 2, you can only put out 1.
How are we gonna enforce them only putting out 1?
He seems like pretty honest.
No, I'm saying.
And my sidewalk too.
I haven't heard this objection, but let me go back to what I said before. Can you reach out by email to the
Send me an
borough
email,
administrator, Chris, and we'll have that discussion.
Thank you for raising it,
yeah.
I very much appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes.
Hey, how's it going? I'm a Borough, 48 Donald Lane, don't feel like you took a donut already. So you want to come up?
You get a second.
But I just want to say, first off, to say thank you for considering about the support for McCarter Pond. I'm a part of the Friends of McCarter Pond, and wanted to reemphasize the importance of that. And definitely appreciate the urgency there that's taking part of that. One question I did have is regarding the dredging, and specifically with the second round coming up, is that set in stone, or is there an opportunity to put that farther off until then we have, so that we can reallocate funds for?
We haven't made any decision to do anything. The next step in the process truthfully was that volunteer weekend.
Okay.
And now it seems like that's not our best option, and that's why, you know, immediately we're like, all right, we need a committee to form and determine what the next option is. So to answer your question, is that a possibility? Yes, I will give you feedback that about 1.5 years ago, I asked, what is the best practice? You know, because I sensed from some of the feedback I got from people that dredging was a better option than hydro raking. The feedback I was getting was, dredging is probably the better option, but there's a lot more hoops to jump through to get to that point. I guess there's a lot of certifications and, you know, yeah, different
Permits from the DEP.
certificates you need to get. And then the next step is the financial side. It was, I don't want to get the number wrong. It was a crazy number. It was, we're talking not millions, I'm sorry, we're not talking $90,000, we're talking millions.
Right.
That's the number I got. So that's why I mentioned earlier on that, you know, I think it's driven by the environmental commission, because I think that's where the most expertise is. I do think that there's probably some other people with expertise in the borough that could help. I think there's some passion right on the pond where, you know, when I did knock on doors across the borough, that was a very geographic specific form of feedback that I got. I heard a lot of people talking about the pond in that area. So maybe there's opportunity for residents like yourself to join to that committee as well. And we're gonna consider all that, and then that committee, as quickly as they can, provide options. That's what we want.
And then in the meantime, our borough administrator, Mr. York, is in conversation with the county to see if we can hire government to hydro rate. If they have the capacity to hydro rate, meaning the equipment, manpower, and the expertise, that's a very efficient approach to a service that might be a fit for a part of the pilot.
And
Yeah,
just-
and it's more financial.
And just background, right, we keep emphasizing hydro raking versus dredging, just because those mean two totally different things. So I just wanted to highlight that.
Got it, yeah, and then, forget about misspoke, but yeah, so with the hydro rating, I'll say trying to push that.
Perfect.
I might have said the wrong.
No, you're
So,
good, you're good. It's
Just that off, the dread, I'd rather save the money for, an alternative, so.
check.
We'll have to evaluate
Awesome.
that, yeah.
Thanks for the feedback.
Definitely.
Stephanie Adams, 230 Oxford, that was my question, but I was already standing up, so.
So you get donut.
But I did want to say, I don't live on the pond, but I did crash the meeting last night, and, I'm always amazed at how many residents we have that are willing to get involved and give up their Sunday night to come and talk about issues that are important to them. So thank you, Elise, for getting that together. Totally psyched that there's a committee being formed. And so, yeah, that was my question, was did we consider dredging? I know you said there were maybe some issues with the bulkhead. I know you talked about the three-pronged approach. I also wondered about the actual kind of structural issues. I think one of and again, I learned a ton last night talking to residents who are there every day, and they see the changes. One of the storm drains was clogged, I don't even know if the drainage pipes are maybe too small. We've all seen the flooding that's going on at the pond. So hopefully we're also looking at that piece. What kind of structural changes can we make to go forward, lessen the issues? And then I did learn from one of the residents who was in here that chemical is actually, if it's what you're talking about, it's a bacteria that will actually eat the silt, and it has a much less of an environmental impact. It sounds like it might be a lot more expensive, but it might be something worth considering if we get a longer kind of result from that as opposed to regular chemicals. So, I had stacks last night, so no donuts tonight.
Just there, if I just can, right, so those observations, right, those anecdotes of what are happening around are so critical, because then the professionals, right, can go investigate and determine if the pipe is too small, or confirm if, we have fourth water creep under there. So more of those anecdotes and observations, I consider those will make leads and evidence that then professionals then can go investigate and come back and help inform.
And so I'll hope that you will consider the members of the Friends Committee as part of your committee, because there is, like I said, I learned a ton last night. People like Michael, who was actually on the Environmental Commission as well, I think she would bring a lot to it. There's so many great, smart people in this town that just want to help, so we're really lucky. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Hi, Carolyn Ferguson, 7 Planet Report. I just had 2 questions. One was the software. Like, what's the current state of software here? Do we have any? Are we swapping from older to newer?
We really have nothing.
So let's refine the question. Is there any software specific to automating process like we're talking about?
Yeah, to
No,
manage the
no.
municipal.
Everything is manual and paper.
Okay, great. That's important information.
Great question. You're a PM.
I know.
Yeah. Okay, excuse me.
Yeah, first. Then the Hardingburg Sanctuary, like we kind of came in mid-conversation, right? Like, do you guys have an immediate goal or a problem you're trying to solve?
No, I think what I would say is the problem I'm trying to solve is I don't see an overall steward of the Harding Bird Sanctuary. And when we started talking about McCarter Pond in more depth and seeing how that deteriorated pretty quickly. I mean, it's been deteriorating over years, but I really have seen in the last 6 months to a year, I see a huge change there. I don't want to wait until it gets too late in the Harding Bird Sanctuary. And I also see it as one of the jewels of the Borough of Fairhaven. And if we can see some, very specific improvements to that area, I think that maybe more people will make use of it.
Okay.
You know, Councilman Cole made a comment that she hasn't seen birds there. I can't speak like specifically to that. I've only been in there once or twice. But I do think to myself, if they're not there and we could find a way to get them there, that could be something that would drive residents to the area. So,
It might even be a requirement when we do get the deed and see how the language is, what's in it, what are the stipulations? It might be, and I'll just say to you, we are all the stewards, right? When we sign up for this, stewarding our resources is a part of the job.
Yeah.
Whether it's identifying leadership, properly funding, or identifying the right professional to prepare the plans. Whether that's done at the committee level, ultimately, this body, we share that stewardship responsibility, if that's what you're seeing.
where's, someone might know this, there's a back entrance to the bird sanctuary. Where is that? What street is that on?
It's over.
Dartmouth.
It's
Harbor?
yeah.
Harbor. There's a
Right
back
next to
entrance to the bird sanctuary.
There's a sign.
Yep. Sort of like there's a Third Street Trail back entrance, like to Fairfields, it's the same thing.
These are some of my goals that I have.
No, I believe me, I went out there
So
one
the
day
en-
for the same
The
reason.
entrance is between two homes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an empty lot.
I'm sorry?
It's an empty lot between two homes there at the end.
Like legit lot, it's not like Third Street Trail side entrance on Hendrickson.
No, it's a good size.
Piece of grassy lawn is a good description.
Okay.
If the goal is based on the stipulation in the deed, you know, it is a bird sanctuary and must be maintained as a bird sanctuary. And we're talking about rebirding a wooded area. It's
Cool.
kind of exciting. Yeah.
Well, it's not like releasing fish in a pond where we could.
No, you have to
birds-
establish the habitat that supports that life cycle. It's.
Caroline, you have one more?
Well, you might want to
All right.
bring
She's got one more.
vegetation that attracts.
Correct.
Sorry, go ahead.
Thank you for the kind words about the natural area committee. I think the committee is fantastic. And I echo your words on that. You know that we present an annual report every year. You know, we strive to be effective. And one of the things, the points we've made is that we feel like we don't really have two-way communication with the borough. So yeah, we've asked for some consistent point of contact at the borough. We don't have that. We think that would be important to be like, we waste a lot of time chasing things down that this got lost or, you know, we talk to one person, the other person doesn't know it. So, you know, our formal request was for 2 hours of admin time a month. All we're really looking for is one direct contact that we can always talk to so that anyone wants to know what the current state of our affairs is, they can go to one email folder and see what's been going on. And kind of related to that, the Fairhaven Road Phase 2, like, nobody shared any information with us. And that's immediately adjacent to the natural area. We've also extended ourselves to try to advocate for the cherry tree lane. And it seems like that's impacted also.
Carolyn, can I double click on that for a minute or maybe
Sure.
jump in? So I had a distinct conversation on this side of the house where there was a specific correspondence back and forth with the natural area on curb versus no curb, fence versus no fence, trimming certain trees. All that information was per the natural area that came back.
No, I'll tell you, in our annual report for the past 3 years, we've asked for a length of curb to prevent water from coming down Beechwood and causing erosion in the natural area. I did get an email saying we weren't gonna get that, and they were implementing some other plan with no details.
Okay, because I was under the impression that it came from you, that not putting a curb there is actually better, and then having like some type of.
It was wildflowers.
So
That's a proposal from the DPW,
So there.
not to us.
Okay.
I said, all we know is that we were told we're not getting the curb, yes.
I think that there is a conversation with Nick that could be very helpful.
Sure.
Because Nick was involved in that particular piece of this, and he explained in a very careful, thoughtful way. If you want to call it uphill, diverting water. You know, so that you don't get the same velocity of water that erodes the curb, that exposes the roots. And that's one piece of a solution that a curb would provide. But there were other parts of this that would include trimming back the trees in the natural area to open it up to create more sunlight on the cherry trees, and plant a wildflower meadow to continue to absorb the water, the extra water. So it was multiple parts. This whole idea was for green infrastructure. It's not hard infrastructure that a curb is, but I think would be appropriate for, I'm just gonna say.
No, it's great. Can
for
someone give
the
us a description or
conversation.
diagram or?
Yes, I mean, I just tried to give you a description, but I think Nick is gonna be the professional to really explain that for, in a way, that I know where
Is
you're
it
coming
something
from.
written down that we can share with the committee members?
We can get it written down. I'm not sure we have it for you right now. But I was also in the meeting, and I would agree with you that for years the discussion was occurred. He very eloquently in that meeting broke down from like 5 different angles why this was a much better plan environmentally, strategically,
Yeah.
whatever you want.
We accept all that. We're
Yeah.
just looking for information.
We'll get it over to you.
Yeah, what I'll do, I'll email you tomorrow, the email address, I'll put you in contact with Nick, we'll do an introduction. You can set
No,
that.
we meet with him about once a month or so. Every month or two, we do a maintenance walk. in
So
the
I can get that
natural area.
information for you.
And some of those ideas about the cherry trees are actually ideas that our committee members suggested.
Exactly. Yeah.
But if there's a plan happening, right, somebody could just reach out to us and share some information. All right, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Carolyn. Hi, Marty.
Hi, Marty Amber, 33 Hance Road. I looked up the Harding Bird Sanctuary, so here are a couple of little snippets of what I thought might be interesting information to add to tonight's discussion. This is a long time ago. This is from the Patch, and it was written in 2013, so things may have changed slightly, but it does say that, let me get to this.
You said patch 20.
Patch,
Patch.
yeah, 2013.
2013, no, I know the
2013.
patch is, I'm just referencing the source, patch
Yeah.
2013.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes. Says the Harding family donated the land, excuse me, in 1950, with the stipulation that the premises hereby conveyed shall be used only for park and playground purposes, thus making it one of the first pieces of preserved land in Fairhaven. And they go on, but there's a lot more interesting information, but at the end, it says, the Harding Bird Sanctuary was registered by the National Audubon Society in 1956. And thanks to the dedicated efforts and hard work of the Garden Club in Fairhaven, it has remained a fully preserved and well-maintained oasis. So just to give a little history and background.
Can you email the article to us?
I will try to do
Say
so.
park and playground, is that what it said?
We should get
I
the
think-
details.
I think that might be something to look into because a playground doesn't necessarily mean what.
What it means now.
Yes.
I got you. Right.
And if it was in the 50s, that means it was 20-something years before Fairhaven Fields.
Mhm.
So it was, wow. That's cool.
Yes.
Celine Scazy, 263 Fairhaven Road. I have a question. Are there any always stops planned for Fairhaven Road?
In the four-way, there's one stop.
Cheap question.
There's one four-way intersection on.
We have a few things in town that we're working on. And that is one of them, we're going to protect the county, so I haven't pulled that yet.
Okay.
But we have a few things throughout town that we're looking at, forward stops and some crosswalks and stuff, that we just haven't had. Yet.
Okay.
So to answer your question, the council has not discussed this, but the chief makes all the safety recommendations
So
to
there's a
the
window
council.
that still add.
Yeah, we do that as a crosswalk where it stops.
Thank you.
Mayor, I have Ally Hayes, who's had her hand up for half an hour.
Sure.
Like the whole time?
Yes.
Ally, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Just going back to all the Fairhaven Road talk and planning. I agree that traffic needs to be severely calmed on our street. I live at the corner of Fairhaven Road and Dogwood, and to me, the speeding issues are just out of control. After the horrible accidents in the last couple of months, I don't understand how it's not a bigger initiative to reduce these issues in a more timely manner. I understand the Fairhaven road plans are coming out. I've looked at them, but it just seems like we've had a lot of issues and we're not on a good path. To me, the plans don't address the speeding issue. I have a couple questions after reviewing them, like, are the Sharrows and the bike lanes intended for our school-age children to ride to sickle school? Because
No, anyone that's, a student at sickle school is, of the age that they can ride their bike on a sidewalk. Correct, Chief? Yes.
so, okay, so then is the Sharrows and the huge signs for the share the lane, those are for adults who are biking down the road?
Well, adults or, what's the age for the sidewalks?
I think it's 12, I'm not.
He thinks it's, well, so it'd be, children 13 or older could potentially make use of those, or adults.
Okay, and just like a separate comment to that, like reviewing the plans, there seem to be abundant of the share the road signs, where I feel like better usage of signage on our street would be more speed limit signs, actual radar signs that show your speed that you're going. You know, I've seen these all over towns. It says your speed. If you're going over it, it says slow down. Just other signage than share the road biking. Other comments and it's great to hear from the chief that he just said there's still input, but I wholeheartedly agree with Elise about the stop sign at the four-way intersection. And I've noticed that there's been stop signs up around town on Kemp and Fairhaven Road Historic District and 3rd Street. So I know, Mayor, I've spoken to you about this, like, I'm just wondering about all those going up, and we're here pushing for other safety issues and pedestrian safety issues on Fairhaven Road. So I would strongly consider that and would love to keep talking about that. Also, I've mentioned speed bumps because I feel like that I've heard, okay, well, there's plows have issues with them, and other towns around here don't really have them, but I don't understand, like, I feel like they're proven to slow down traffic and to avoid accidents. So if we could reconsider putting those in, because I live here, the speeding is out of control. I love that the police are monitoring more. I see them on our street more, but it's crazy. People hit my garbage can all the time. People just speed by. I won't even let my kids in my front yard. So I just would love some more safety help.
Thank you, Ally.
Mhm.
Yes, Will.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna say this at the end, but, you're talking about safety. If you go to, my name is Will Heller.
Yep.
Okay. If you go to Eaton Town, they've already solved the problem with the speeding by putting in not speed bumps, but speed humps.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you take 35 south, past McDonald's, take the first right, you'll start running to these humps. And it slows down the traffic totally, because in the old days, people used to use Eaton Town as a shortcut to get to 35 and stuff in the back. So you don't have to invent the wheel again. Just put in those humps and, you know, and so space along the curb so the water can run and the problem solved. And you need them on Fairhaven Road, and you need them on Hants Road between Ridge and River Road. Because they use it as a cut through to get to, I guess, the 35 going north. And all you have to do is put it on.
We'll discuss it with the chief and the borough engineer.
Those stop signs that you put up and the stuff, people are rolling through them already. I've seen it over in near the dock area. They're there for further. First couple of weeks, people stopped, and now they're just rolling through them, so they're nothing, so they're not working.
Okay, thank you for your time, Will.
Blazer?
All right. Ruth, you there?
I'm here, you're there. Have been for a couple hours. I just have a question. With these new electric bikes, basically they are a hum, if you can hear them at all. And I live on River Road, and I often go out in front and trim my property. And on more than one occasion, almost got hit by a person on a bike that I did not hear coming, and there's nothing wrong with my hearing. But in the old days, bikes had bells. As a courtesy, do you think you could put in an ordinance that says if you've got a bike, put a bell on it and use it?
Well, I don't know about that, but I can tell you, that right now, electric bikes are a huge issue. I said it at the last meeting, I've seen probably 20 more instances of it since then. I'm speaking to parents I know, when I'm saying this right now, I've seen your children riding an e-bike in a way that you would not be happy. I'm very, very concerned, like extremely concerned that we're gonna get a bad phone call one of these days. So please talk to your children, even adults, please be careful with these electric bikes. They're akin to motorcycles. Without your child needing to get a license or take any of the courses associated with having one. Ruth, to answer your question, at the next council meeting, I'm hopeful that we're gonna be able to introduce an e-bike ordinance. I'm not sure it's gonna have anything about bells on it. But there will be some restrictions that hopefully will improve the situation.
Okay, my second issue is several weeks ago, probably at least 3 meetings ago, you assured me that the light situation on River Road was going to be remedied with all these gray boxes, and this whole thing was going to be taken care of. And you said specifically within weeks. Well, it's been a number of weeks. What's happening?
Well, I meant within weeks, one more week than you were thinking. I actually happened to email the borough administrator about this morning, because I noticed that the timers weren't matching up on each side of the road. I believe that we had a borough engineer, was it tonight, that was gonna, or sometime this week was gonna.
Yes, yeah, I'm already in contact with Nick from DPW, sending DPW crews out to coordinate all of that. There's also a concern about the color. Our lights, it's the color effect is not necessarily our lights, it's the JCP&L's lights. So I put an email to Frank Luna, the coordinator, in order to get those bulbs changed as well.
Great.
So he sent us the order form and how we're to do that. So
And with the,
so in the process of getting that done as well.
and with the exception of installing the new posts, which are on delivery.
Correct, yes,
The work is
completely.
complete.
So
So
the end of that, Ruth, is there's still a few posts that need to be replaced.
installed, really. They're not there.
We're still waiting for that order to come in. Once it comes in, they're gonna be installed.
But there are an awful lot of gray boxes out there. Are they all poles?
Yes.
Yes.
Wow.
Can I ask a random question about the lights? So this is specific, but on the corner of Colonial Court and Smith Street, there's a light that I think is censored, but it like waits till I'm right underneath it. It happens to be a very dark light. Are they all censored? Like how, is that supposed to be a sensor?
Yeah.
Is it at the back?
Motion sensor or light sensor?
I don't know, because it's like off all the
So the
time.
the
and it
JCP&L lights are light sensor, they're not motion sensor. Is it a JCP&L light?
It might be probably.
You know what I'll do? I do a ride around every morning before I come in, so Colonial Smith, I'll ride up
Yeah.
and check it tomorrow.
Check it
morning.
out, because it's so dark and then I'm like, well, that was useless.
Yeah, the JCP&L lights are not censored. They're censored for light, but not censored for motion, so
Gotcha.
I'll look at it tomorrow morning.
Michael,
Yes. Yes,
I,
Ruth.
the lights in the Acme parking lot at night, I think after a certain hour are on motion sense. So
Yeah,
if it's the,
okay.
if it's the back of the shopping center, could it be one of their lights?
It's across the street though, it's on the other side.
Oh, okay, all right,
But
okay.
maybe somehow it's connected.
I'll check it out.
All right, thanks, Ruth. Yeah.
Allison, anyone else?
No, sir.
Allison, I did get one email. Can I read it real quick? Ronald Candria sent us an email. He was having connection issues with Zoom that kept freezing up. This is about e-bike safety concerns in Fairhaven. And I'll just read it real quick. It says, thank you all for hearing my concerns in an email. I did join this evening's meeting on Zoom. Stayed on quite a long time, found video freezing quite often. Audio was a bit better, still not satisfactory. Did not feel that my sharing through Zoom would be effective, so I decided to leave. One thing I will add one thing, might the police department consider, if not already doing this, doing stops and safety checks of riders exhibiting unsafe behaviors? This could be most valuable with the fastest throttle control Class 3 e-bikes by discussing safe riding practices with stopped riders, checking if they're at age requirement to wear a helmet, and checking to see if there are age permitted to ride Class 3 e-bikes, even contacting riders' parents if riders are not supposed to be using that class of bikes. That is from Ron Pandria.
We already are stopping somebody that is improperly using the bike. You know, you can't just stop them just with their age, but anybody without a helmet or is right. We also started an initiative where Lupo donated a couple hundred cards of free slice of pizza. And the officers are going out and kids that are doing the right thing are actually getting.
Aw, that's nice.
Did that probably 10 years ago, and then we just started it out, just last week actually. So they are already stopped them, already approved the parents were appropriate, and they're also being part of it.
Awesome. Great job, Chief.
Thank you, Lupo.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lupo.
So I also have an email here, someone that is unable to attend tonight's council meeting. I'm just gonna read their questions, and they are generally in favor of sub, but they have questions or concerns. I'm just reading for the record so we can get back to them, or and this is from Bridget McLean at 345 Fairhaven Road. With the addition of bike lanes, which will make the street even more narrow, what is the plan for the speed limit? If there are bike lanes, does that mean guests to our home will not be permitted to park on the street in front of our house? Will the town be responsible for upkeep of the sidewalks? If the sidewalk needs to be replaced due to wear and tear, will that burden be on the homeowner? What additional signs will be added to the street and where? Will our tax assessment be lowered since we now have less property? Well, no, the sidewalks are in the borough right away. That one I can answer immediately. And I see Ronald's email as well. Okay, anyone else? Allison?
No.
Ryan, did you have something else?
What is the answer for who's in charge of maintaining the sidewalk?
As far as if the sidewalk starts to deteriorate, it would be the borough that would need to, like, for instance, we just fixed Fairhaven Road down in the historic district. We just fixed Gentry sidewalks. That would be the borough. As it relates to if there's a snowstorm, I think there's like a 48-hour period in which the homeowner does clear the sidewalk of snow. Yes.
What about parking on the bike lane?
Yeah, you're not allowed to park.
And if it's definitely necessary to have a bike lane just in one block, it seems like it's just one block of bike lane going on. Just from.
Is it part of the showers or is it a dedicated bike lane? Is it a dedicated, do you, I don't have it.
We had it last meeting, we had the plan.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay,
Rich, can you speak to that, to whether that's a dedicated bike lane or sharrows?
The block
Did-
between Hillcrest and Buttonwood.
The bike lane goes from Ridge Road to Hillcrest on both travel lanes heading north and south. And then north of Hillcrest, it turns into the Sharrows, which takes you to River Road to tie into that bike network.
So the bike path is only going a couple blocks.
It goes from Ridge to Hillcrest.
Correct.
Like Bunwood's the first right you make off Ridge,
Yeah.
Hillcrest is the second one, that's sort of at the top of the hill.
Is there plans to extend it? I'm sorry, I missed that piece of it somehow.
It's, what he's saying is and I might be getting your question wrong, the bike lane goes from Ridge to Hillcrest, and then at Hillcrest towards River Road, it becomes Shallows.
Correct.
Seems like the bike lane would be a continuous
Yeah.
path.
I agree with that.
You can't do the entire.
I think when we have Sharrows, it's because of the width of the road, Rich, is that correct?
It's the width of the cartway or the paved width and right-of-way considerations.
I think you think still have a bike lane for 2 blocks.
then it disappears.
And that's gonna stop us parking on the street when I.
Do you park there now?
I have to wait, stop there, get caught.
And you can't park in Sharrows also?
You can.
You can park in the shower.
Yeah,
So
well,
I kind of get their question though, like, why do we decide right there to make it a bike lane? Like, wouldn't it be more consistent to be the Sharrow, the width? I get
Because
the
it's the
width,
width.
but if we can't,
That's the point of a shower. And Rich, you should probably walk us through this, but where we have the width, it's always advisable to do
bike lane.
a bike lane, a dedicated bike lane. And if you can't accommodate it, then you should shower it up. Rich, if you would help us.
Yes, that is true. So as part of the design, when you look at the pavement widths that you're dealing with, because we have pre-existing conditions here, anywhere you can try to lay in a bike lane to the standard for that type of design, you would try to put in a dedicated bike lane. It goes to the same feel of what Tracy mentioned earlier in the discussion earlier about traffic calming. It narrows the travel lane. It allows a dedicated bike lane or safe passage between that. It's like a shoulder stripe between the edge of the travel lane and the curb. And it's no different than what we did on River Road. On the down by Red Bank, we added a bike lane where the pavement was wider and allows you to lay one in there. It's the same type of design. And then as you transition back into the other section of Fairhaven Road, we transition to the Sharrows. So you incorporate these different design elements to increase ped and bike safety. And I was going to mention earlier, when we design these streets, we're designing them with the pedestrian and bicycle in mind. We're not designing like we did 20 years ago to get a car from A to B as quick as we can. So anytime you can put in these type of complete street initiatives and design elements to create traffic calming, to create driver awareness, to create pedestrian and bike safety, along with appropriate signage, high visibility striping, the crosswalks, all the things we've talked about, especially as you approach the school areas and all the other improvements that we've done in recent years. We talked about the sidewalk we added. We talked about the improvements at 3rd Street. We're enhancing the 3rd Street intersection. By use of striping, it's an economical way to do so. It's an effective way to do so. And more importantly, it fits the design initiative that we've been doing throughout the borough in other areas on some of these other streets. And it also falls into place, remembering that we did get considerable money in excess of $900,000 from NJDOT, and they endorse these types of projects and promote these types of improvements.
But I feel for you, because I know it, I think I understand it.
You see how it's snowballing, that it's snowballing to 2 bike lanes that no one's going to use, and that 15 residents won't be able to park in front of their homes. And that's the point, and they're gonna lose substantial driveway frontage, especially the bike lane and the mountain territories. There are residents that live in the woods, and there's no residents on it, no one's going to use that bike lane. Never seen anyone come down that direction from the street, and that's what upsets us. But it's the residents that are paying the price. We're not getting anything from that. I know in a perfect real world, in a perfect drawing, in a busier town maybe, or a busier street, yes. But those really will not be used and will lose farm. And that's what.
I mean, how's the bike lane better than a shoulder like every other town does it, just a white stripe down the side of it?
I think
Where you can have it continuously instead of having a truncated bike lane and it ends.
You'd have to ask the engineer.
It's breaking up. I couldn't hear him from the back of the room
A
there.
white lane any better than a shoulder like every other town does, but it's just a white stripe down the side of the road, separating the drivers and the bikers.
So if you stripe the edge of the travel lane, which I think you're talking about, which would be creating a shoulder, that shoulder would not be wide enough to park a car legally. So when you drive down Fairhaven Road now and there's a car parked or cars parked along the edge of pavement or existing curb line, chances are, or not chances are, the pavement width, the travel lane width is not to proper standard. So if we stripe that line, and you see this on a lot of the county paving projects, they've been putting in these shoulder lines. You're not going to have an 8-foot shoulder to have as a parking lane. You're going to have more of what is left over, like we propose, a bike lane, 4 to 5 feet in width. The right of way, the cartway width simply is not there to do that.
But it sounds like you're parking there periodically.
I would say separate from parking, why do we need this showering bike lane?
So
Keep it simple, just having the road with white stripes outside to separate the bikes.
I mean, you might get a different answer from other people, but my answer to that is, when you look at our master plan, every master plan has a transportation or kind of circulation component. The circulation component of Fairhaven's master plan, which is our roadmap, that's our guiding document, isn't about cars. It's about bikes and pedestrians. The fact that that circulation element doesn't primarily address cars tells us that the infrastructure improvements that we're going to apply for grants for and put tax dollars towards is towards improving the infrastructure to support pedestrian and bicycle circulation. That is a hallmark of the community. And recall that when a master plan is written, it's driven in large part by resident contributions, repeated outreach and feedback from the community, along with the technical authors who prepare it, but it's driven by the community when it's prepared. So that's a major hallmark of Fairhaven, and it's the reason that we prioritize bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure.
I have one more question, so I'll do it a bit on. But in the history of doing different streets and doing different things, range was slated for sidewalks, no curbs, all natural. What's the difference in this scenario that one neighborhood, the majority of people don't want the sidewalks, they say it doesn't work for us, we'll also have this on hand, so they didn't want curbs, and they did want curbs, and so I heard. So why is our voice of our 50 individuals, okay, it's a little over 10, not the same as the residents on other streets? I'm just asking for the council to respect that.
I can answer that, and I'd have a different response than other members of the body, so I'm speaking for myself. That was a different governing body. I wouldn't, if that happened now, I wouldn't support that situation, where, you end up with, I've used the term before in here, a Frankenstein project. A project that's not completely designed in a way it should be for safer streets, safer access, stormwater management, the whole Megillah. So I definitely hear what you're saying. I feel as if, I said, personally, I'm talking for myself, tried to set a precedent that we wouldn't do a project like that again. We have a borough engineer for a reason that designs these roads to certain standards. We did take feedback from the community. I could tell you the meeting we had 2 or 3 weeks ago was 100% dedicated to trying to apply feedback, trying to apply all the safety standards in a reasonable way. There were other safety ideas that were brought up that for different reasons we passed on. So, every project is not the same, but from my specific personal viewpoint, we shouldn't let one neighborhood dictate a project that could benefit the entire borough. That's just my answer.
One more perspective, it's Stephanie out of 230 Oxford. Just on the bike lanes, we've been talking about how fast people drive down the cans. I've also seen how fast people bikers that are biking. You have a 2-block bike lane that suddenly
meets the road. And so my concern would be, I feel like a lot of the folks that are biking are from out of town, they see a bike lane, they're picking up speed. And all of a sudden, your bike lane ends and you have a speeding driver, you're all showering the road. I don't know, it just seems a little counterintuitive to me, but just something to consider that everyone's gonna be picking up speed and then all of a sudden that bike lane ends. And the cars and the bikes are meeting in the road. It just doesn't, I don't, personally, it just seems a little unsafe. But,
Thank you, Stephanie.
thanks.
Anyone else?
No.
No. All right, moving along to approval of minutes, July 8th, 2024, regular meeting, July 8th, 2024 executive session. Do I have a motion to approve? Motion.
Second.
Allison, may I please have a roll call?
Members Cole,
Yes.
Kinsella.
Yes.
We have Kristen still on.
There she got phone. Okay.
Yes.
Old business, hearing and adoption of ordinance, 2024-10, amend borough fee schedule. Do I have a motion to open?
Motion to open.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Is there anyone up here that has any comments on this? Is there anyone in the public comment on 2024-10? Allison, is there anyone on Zoom?
No.
Do I have a motion to close?
Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
Allison, may I please have a roll call?
Kinsella.
Yes.
Cody.
I think you
Sorry,
skipped call.
Hodge.
Did you skip me because I wasn't here?
No, this is we're voting on this.
Let's start up. Cole,
Yes.
Kinsella.
Yes.
Hodge.
Yes.
Borough.
Yes.
Olson.
Yes. And I'm gonna take a moment to give a compliment to Allison right now, is I can't remember the last time she even like made like a little slip up like that on the date. So it's a compliment how great you are at this. I mean that.
I second that. All in favor?
But she's still mad at me because I pointed out her mistake.
I'm not perfect.
All right, next up, we have a facilities update. Councilman LaBarbera has a few things to talk about.
Yes, and we'll try and be as succinct as possible. DPW siding, if you recall, there was a drought in Mexico that prevented the color.
It's over?
The drought was over.
Ah, I thought the drought was over.
That was the original color. Everybody stand up, get the blood flowing, be good. The recommended color from the professionals is there. The stone, the DPW siding.
Ooh.
Like it better.
The stone hasn't changed,
Darker,
the
right?
mortar hasn't changed, the white trim hasn't changed. But that is as close to the original color, 8 to 10 week lead time, and in keeping with the spirit over the last 18 months, we wanted to make sure the governing body was aware and voice any comments, questions, concerns.
It's fine.
Looks great.
Okay. Great job, Christina.
Little Vanna.
Maybe a bad idea. Do you think there's some sort of like interior decorator in town that we just run it by?
We did run it by,
No, am I wrong?
we ran it by the professionals and.
Oh, we're good. All right,
Interior
good.
design.
All right, I love it. Let's go.
Well,
I'm up there on time.
yeah,
It's a drought.
and that speaks to the next thing. So if you recall, BFI is the furniture provider. Last year, the budget was approved, et cetera. And so the furniture has a 12-week lead time, is fully color coordinated, right? If you remember, the professionals, the interior designers, all that went from the roof all the way down to the piece of furniture. Police department's blessed from chief. DPW is blessed from the DPW team. The community center furniture was blessed from here. So the furniture will be ordered. Just want to make sure the government body was aware, but it all goes
On time within budget.
on time and within budget. Love that. Long-term parking. So this is the long-term parking design for Fish Chapel. We're gonna be having our kickoff call likely in the next few weeks. The improvement, the design, the professionals have been approved, the funds have been encumbered. So this is just to kick off the design call with our Fish Chapel stakeholders. Want to make sure everybody's tracking. Community center, I'll come back the next time. We can do those next. We don't have to rush those two, just for the spirit
Wait,
of
what
time.
did you just say about the legal back?
Do the community center content for the plaque. I figured do it the next meeting.
Oh, sure.
And then baseball, I figured do it the next meeting.
Sure.
Okay. So that's it for facilities. Brush and leaf, we're gonna be assembling the committee again. And looking to take in all the feedback that we've received to date. So the request of the governing body is any feedback that you have, please point it to Borough Administrator York. He's gonna compile all the feedback, residents, our own feedback, et cetera. The committee will take it, digest it, and we'll look to have recommendations so we can do next year better, because there's definitely areas that we can improve for next year.
One small,
Yeah.
offer. We're sort of still within the new program calendar year. Feedback now is great. Can we also understand that there'll be feedback towards the end? I think by the time we're doing rolling leaf, heads will be clear, we'll have a year under our belt, we might have a
Love it.
better picture.
Check, 100%.
And as we discussed, nothing will be printed on a calendar unless we all agree.
And not only do we agree that there's a resolution that approves it, and Borough Administrator York and I had a conversation about that, and it won't happen.
Thank you.
You're welcome. That's it, Mayor, just for spirit of conversation.
Well, okay, so we're good. So we're gonna move into new business, introduction of ordinances, 2024-11. Amend ordinance number 2024-07, land use and development regulations, comply with NJDP, stormwater management rules.
So this ordinance went to the surrounding municipalities and to the county when it was introduced. It was also sent to them upon adoption, and that's when the county decided to make comments. It doesn't have to go through the same process of the 35 days because it's not, it doesn't affect the ordinance in any way, it's just the title.
And doesn't have to go to the planning board or anything,
Nope.
we could just.
It's a de minimis change for our attorney.
Perfect.
Love it. Anyone have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Allison, may I please have a roll call?
Paul.
Yes.
Massey.
Yes.
Koch.
Yes.
Rivera.
Yes.
Olson.
Yes. Thank you. 2024-12, create capital ordinance for police car purchase. I have one question on this, chief.
Yes.
How are we putting the thing together? Like, didn't we used to use,
Yeah, we have
Right.
a local or repair shop sets.
is that, but it's, we used to do it ourselves, so now we gotta pay the shop, I assume, right? Is that built into, yeah? Okay, thank you.
And if the governing body recalls, right, when we were dealing with the budget challenges this year. Going from lease to the capital purchase was one of the levers we pulled to make sure that we were within budget.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so just want to make sure that has the background. This was budgeted for, adopted, planned for, so. Chief, what's the lead time on procurement?
Actually, they have one in stock, so.
Beautiful.
Any other
Otherwise,
questions?
2 years.
On that,
No.
Motion to approve 2024-12.
Second.
Allison,
Paul.
yes.
Massey.
Yes.
can I have a roll call, please?
Rivera.
Yes.
I'm moving along.
You did not call my name.
I did too.
You said yes.
Did you just say that she made a second mistake?
I did not.
Call my name.
There was conversation.
Oh, I
It was
didn't.
because of his joke.
Let's start over. Paul.
Yes.
Massey.
Yes.
Everybody had a donut, this would be happening.
Yes.
Rivera.
Yes.
Olson.
Yes. Thank you. Consent agenda resolutions 2024-184 through 195. I'm just pointing out, it doesn't mean that we can't continue awarding this contract for Fairwood. Doesn't mean we can't continue the discussion on the design with our borough engineer. Right?
And Mayor, if I recall, right, the approval tonight, like, we're at the last day for the DOT grants.
Correct.
So,
This is just about awarding the contract and locking in the grant and the fact that we're gonna do the work.
and it won't,
Okay.
yeah.
So, does anyone have any questions about anything on the agenda?
One before you got into the bills for you.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
there it is.
You did.
It's less than the original, an error was found in a hall construction.
Thanks, Scott.
By our CFO.
Yes,
Good job.
200,000. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions first on anything on here? Does anyone want to separate anything on the consent agenda? No, does anyone want to make a motion to approve? Motion to approve.
Second.
Allison, Matt, please have a roll call.
Paul,
Yes.
Sally,
Yes.
Yes.
Rivera.
Yes.
Olson.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Next up, department reports, June 2024. Does anyone here have a motion to accept the reports, possibly with a thank you?
Motion with the thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. Let's move along to good of the borough. Please stand and identify yourself by clearly stating your name and address for the record. Please observe a time limit of 3 minutes. Is there anyone? Public comment? Oh, I'm sorry, good of the borough? The borough? No? Allison?
No one has their hand raised.
All right, thank you. We are moving towards adjournment. We don't have exec session? No. Oh, all right. And we're adjourning tonight at 9:42 PM. Motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Wow, next second.